Episode number 551, Fight Inside the Void Fire Cauldron, I. Kane's eyes glowed with golden light as he used the flow to look for new energy fluctuations. The group kept moving for several hours, but none grew impatient since they all had faith in Kane's abilities. If he had not directed them to a path, it was because all those they had seen were dead ends. After nearly 9 hours of travel, Kane's eyes narrowed as he noticed one of the paths had energy fluctuations and guided the warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan in. At first, the warriors were happy as they were sure they had found a path to a new chamber, but it did not take long for them to frown as they saw no monsters on their path, which were usually signs of a chamber in the proximity. Samuel and Law were ready to go through their records to figure out whether they were on a good path when suddenly Kane shouted,
"Pull back."
Kane made his energy explode as he took out Slaughter and sent 2 massive bursts of blood energy to the flanks of the duo. Just as Samuel and Law were about to ask about Kane's actions, their eyes widened when they saw the walls beginning to tremble. Samuel and Law did not hesitate to pull back just as Kane said, and as they did, the wall began to move with shocking speed and momentum, trying to crush the duo. Luckily for them, the bursts of blood energy managed to delay the walls for a fraction of a second, giving them enough time. However, that was just the start, since the walls around the rest of the warriors of the Zangini's clan and Solis clan also began to tremble. Although the group was surprised, they were all experienced cultivators and recognized the phenomenon, so they used all their power and skills to retreat. Kane continued sending bursts of blood energy and was not alone, since Samuel, Law, and all the others also unleashed explosions against the walls to delay them as they moved back. They were using all their power, but slowly, the walls were catching up to them. Luckily, after 10 minutes and pulling back over 500 kilometers, the walls stopped trembling and the group could relax. They were all tired as they were forced to use their energy to hinder the walls' crushing power. However, other than exhaustion, there was also excitement in their faces, particularly in those who followed the astral rebirth path of power. The crushing walls were the sign they were nearing the void fire cauldron. It is one of the 6 chambers, and just like the breath of Cosmos chamber was designed for essence evolution cultivators, this one provided immense help to those who follow the astral rebirth path of power. Although no monsters were guarding the path to the void fire cauldron, reaching it was much more troublesome, as the strength of those walls was much greater than any horde of filth monsters or gas monsters, and they were nearly impossible to detect their movements. Once again, the members of the Zangini's clan and Solis clan turned toward Kane with awe and surprise, as he could predict the motion of the crushing walls before anyone else. Kane was able to detect the movement thanks to the flow, but that was the limit of his abilities, and at most, his attacks could slow them. They would have to figure out a path through the crushing walls if they wanted to reach the void fire cauldron. Samuel and Law had prepared for this, and both waved their hands as they took objects from their space rings. The warrior from the Solis clan took a small sphere of what seemed to be silver glue, while the man from the Zangini's clan took a set of small metallic pillars.
Everybody get ready. The crushing walls react to the presence of living beings, and the more there are, the stronger their power, so we must move as fast as possible.
Continue reading at Freeweb Novel. Samuel's voice made everybody adopt a solemn expression as they made their energy pool burst with everything they had and activated their fastest spells. Then the man put the orb of silver glue on the ground, and this one moved on its own, covering the walls for thousands of kilometers forward.
Boodle Uams.
In the next second, all of the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan burst forward, generating an explosive echo as they advanced at an overwhelming speed. Immediately, the crushing walls reacted to their presence, but the silver glue stopped their movements, delaying them.
THRRR.
The 20 warriors had advanced less than 800 kilometers when the sound of tearing echoed, and they saw how the silver glue began to rip under the power of the crushing walls. At this point, Law sent forward the silver pillars, and they not only grew in size but became a spider web that connected through every single wall, resisting the power of the crushing walls and keeping the passage open. Although the metallic web pillars were incredibly durable and could bear overwhelming pressure, they did not last long. They soon began to break, making the warriors from the Zanginis clan and Solis clan grow tense and push their energy to the limit. Kane's speed was not his forte, but thanks to his mastery over the law of space, he was able to move faster than most of the warriors. Just as the crushing walls were about to catch them, they saw a light at the end of the tunnel and pushed forward, only to witness a massive sea of what seemed to be boiling bronze liquid. Everybody smiled as they had managed to reach the void fire cauldron, and in front of them was the void fire, an extremely powerful liquid that could be used to temper the flesh and blood, helping any type of body refinement technique and especially useful for astral rebirth cultivators, even more for those that use yang and scorching energy like the Solis clan. However, the group immediately adopted a solemn expression as they saw that there were already people here, and not just one group, but warriors of 2 of the 10 great bloodlines. Kane's eyes narrowed as he stared at people with a barbaric appearance and dark fur, and also those that seemed to have magma running across their veins from the Volcano clan. How troublesome. Void fire was even scarcer than the essence astral air, and the people of the Ursa clan and Volcano clan had already occupied the entire chamber, so it was clear they would not be too keen on allowing 2 more groups to appear and displace them. As Kane expected, the warriors from the 2 clans stopped training as they emerged from the river of boiling liquid bronze and approached the group composed of the Zanginis clan and Solis clan. Although the people of the Ursa and Volcano clans were imposing, Zamiel and Law showed no fear as they stood straight and gazed at the leaders of the groups.
Zamiel Law.
The one who spoke first was a man from the Volcano clan. He was very tall with dark hair and ash skin, and by his facial features, he resembled Ian, the emperor of the Deus Behemoth Empire.
Gordon Sima.
Zamiel responded to the man from the Volcano clan and also saluted the woman from the Ursa clan. Gordon and Sima stared at the group. Their instincts told them these warriors had grown very powerful over these short few months, meaning they had already gone through a chamber and managed to reach this one. The Volcano clan and Ursa clan did not have any form of animosity, but were not good friends either, and only acted as one now as they faced the combined might of the Solis and Zanginis clan. Gordon and Sima glanced at each other before the woman spoke imposingly.
We are willing to let those that follow the astral rebirth path of power into the void fire with us, but the others will have to wait until we finish.
Zamiel and Law glanced at each other as they heard that. Although the void fire would be helpful for the essence cultivators, its true power was for astral cultivators. Although the void fire would have been diluted by the time the essence cultivators from the Solis clan and Zanginis clan would use it, it should be enough for them so they could wait. However, before the duo could even deliberate, Kane took a step forward and gazed at the duo with coldness.
No deal, all of us will use the void fire.
Kane could not allow the void fire to dilute, as he needed to use its full power to train his body if he wanted the chance to push his astral cultivation to the middle wave king now, instead of 5 months later. Although he could have tried a diplomatic approach, the pressure of the Kraken clan made him throw away useless words and get straight to the point as he faced Gordon and Sima. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 552, Fight Inside the Void Fire Cauldron, When the duo heard those words, they immediately frowned and gazed at Kane coldly. Even if the young man was the new sun avatar from the Solis clan, he was still a foreigner in their home, yet he dared to speak like that to them and incite a fight. Gordon stared at Kane for a moment before turning again towards Zamiel and Law.
What is your decision?
The way the man spoke, ignoring Kane's words, was meant as an insult, but Kane did not really care, and he was not worried as it did not take long for Zamiel and Law to show fighting will in their eyes. Tension escalated as the 2 groups looked at each other with fighting will. Experience more on Freewebno.
There is no reason for all of us to battle. Your best 3 against our best 3. The winner will have the right to lead all their people into the void fire, while the loser will have to take their essence cultivators out.
Kane spoke again, making everyone's eyes focus on him. The mock fight he just proposed was clearly meant to include him in the battle. The coldness in Godin and Sima diminished greatly as they heard the words of Cain and saw how this one intended to use his own strength to secure the right for the void fire. If there was something the Deus Behemoth race respected, it was strength and determination, and the Godslayer human was showing both of them right now. Zamuel and Law glanced at Cain and softly nodded with smiles on their faces. Although they did not understand why Cain wanted to use the void fire so much, this one had helped them enormously, allowing them early access to 3 of the 6 chambers already. If Cain wanted to use the void fire immediately, they were willing to fight for it. However, the fact the Godslayer human would be fighting by their side made their image of this one even better.
Ha, very good. There is nothing better to fix a problem than with a fight. After all, in this world might is right.
Godin stepped forward and shouted, as his entire body seemed to ignite with dark red flames.
Jaqen.
The moment Godin shouted that name, a man flashed out from the void of fire cauldron and appeared along his side. He was over 2.5 meters tall, with a bulky body, and there was not a single hair on his face, giving him a menacing aura. Jaqen remained silent behind Godin, focusing on Cain with his dark brown eyes. As he stared at the bulging man, Cain's eyes grew sharp, and he used the pseudo-atomic analysis tool. This fight was too important, and he would gather as much information as he could. Although Jaqen would have easily detected Cain's ego wave inspecting his body, the pseudo-atomic analysis tool was much more subtle. The Deus Behemoth detected nothing, and the next second a stream of information appeared in Cain's mind. Scanning target. Scan of target completed. Name, Jaqen. Race, Deus Behemoth. Path of power, astral rebirth, bone calamity. Lineage, volcano lineage. Wave talent, middle tier 9. Stats. Strength, 710. Agility, 389. Vitality, 598. Astral wave, 694. Astral blood saturation, 91% completion. Cain could not help but clench his fists as he saw those stats. The man was nearly 7 times stronger than him and had a constitution that surpassed his by a factor of 5. However, the one thing that raised the man's danger was his astral blood saturation. At 50%, you could use the ability of astral blood to enhance your defenses and offensive power exponentially, but it was only temporal. However, once your astral blood saturation rises beyond 90%, you can keep igniting your blood cells for hours without a problem. He seems to be the oldest of the group, nearing 100 already, but that is only fair as he is already at the peak of the apotheosis realm. This man might be even stronger than Godin, who is supposed to lead the Volcano clan's warriors. Cain was certain that this man was even more dangerous than the poisoned lightning Draco frog. I will hide my astral wave, but I must unleash everything else to win. Zamuel and Law were also aware of Jaqen's strength, but they could do nothing other than trust Cain could handle the man. The warriors of the Ursa clan, Volcano clan, Solis clan, and Zangini's clan all moved away from the center of the void fire cauldron, leaving only the 6. Although this would not be a battle to the death, neither would it be a small mock battle, and they could end up hurt if they lost focus for even a second. After all, every one of them had more power inside their bodies than a nuclear weapon. Zamuel took out shot daggers that radiated with the power of sunlight energy, while Law activated his spiked gauntlets full of explosive blood energy. The blood inside their veins began to burn as they were ready to trigger their astral blood ability.
Boom. Boom.
That was not all, as the duo also unleashed their astral wave and made it burst with overwhelming power, generating a dense pillar of dark golden and purple phos. Godin, Sima, and Jaqen did the same as their counterparts, taking out their weapons and making their astral wave explode. Sima, the fierce woman from the Ursa clan, took out a massive hammer, and it was so heavy that the moment it touched the ground, it cracked. Godin took out what seemed to be a massive bastard sword bathed in magma, while Jaqen took out a halberd made of fiery volcanic rock. Although it was normal for those in the lower levels of the astral rebirth path of power to rely only on their arms and legs, as their ego wave grew stronger, many of them attained more than enough mastery over the 4 basic wave arts to extend their wave cloak to their weapon flawlessly.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
As the trio made their astral wave burst, 3 more explosions echoed inside the void fire cauldron. The 5 pillars were like the fingers of a divine deity clashing against the ceiling of the chamber, and if they were in the outside world, they could be seen for dozens of thousands of kilometers. Finally, all eyes turned to Cain as they waited to see his energy pool burst. The people of the Ursa clan and Volcano clan had not come to the sun avatar crowning, so while they had heard of the power of the Godslayer human before, this would be the first time they could see it properly. As for the battle upon reaching the astral bloodline realm against the skeletal creatures, at that point, everybody was focused on their own fight, so they only witnessed some impressive spells of the Godslayer human, which was far from enough to gauge his true power. Cain took a deep breath as he took out Slaughter, and in the next second, a wave of sky blue energy and blood energy emerged from his body.
Boom.
A small blast echoed, and everybody saw the essence wave and blood energy pillar emerging from Cain. The Deus behemoths immediately narrowed their eyes as they saw the purity of both energy pools and how, despite being a middle wave king, the potency with which these energies emerged from Cain's body matched that of someone with a foot in the apotheosis realm. Although it was surprising, it was far from impressive enough. At this point, Cain's eyes began to glow with red light, and he used the full power of his willpower to enhance his wave burst.
Boom.
Gordon, Saima, and Jaqen adopted solemn expressions as they saw the sky blue and red pillar of energy blasting into the chamber ceiling with a might that did not fall short of any of them. Cain could not match the size of their energy pools, but his wave burst allowed him to unleash as much energy as they did. Of course, such a massive wave burst would mean that Cain's energy pool would deplete much faster, but no one expected this to be a battle of attrition. However, what surprised everyone was that Cain could unleash such massive energy output without any backlash. Even if his willpower allowed him to do it, that did not mean his body and meridians could endure such overwhelming pressure. Yet no matter how they looked at the Godslayer human, he seemed perfectly fine. Jaqen, do not lower your guard for even a second. Remember, that man was able to kill a divine beast before becoming a wave king. Gordon's eyes held a solemn light as he sent a message to his comrade. I understand, young lord. Jaqen's eyes began to glow with a silver light as he unleashed the full power of his ego wave, enhancing his body even more and immediately triggering his astral blood ability. Even though the young man was nearly 70 years younger, he would use everything he had. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 553, Cain vs. Jaqen. Samuel's entire body glowed with sunlight energy as he focused on Gordon, while Law clenched his fists, his eyes fixed on Saima. Cain's eyes overflowed with red light as he stared at Jaqen. Silence reigned until suddenly, a tiny pebble fell from the ceiling into the void fire, and that slight reverberation marked the start of the fight. Samuel and Law flashed head-on toward Gordon and Saima, and their counterparts from the Volcano clan and Ursa clan did the same. Jaqen, on the other hand, flashed upward, expecting Cain to put distance between them, so he wanted to get a good view of the battlefield before diving with all his power toward the opponent.
Thumpy.
Unfortunately for the halberd-wielding master from the Volcano clan, Cain did not put distance between the two. On the contrary, he diminished it so fast that they stood face to face less than a second after the battle started. Jaqen's eyes widened as he saw the Godslayer human standing right in front of him, so close that he could see the red skin of this one beneath the sun armor and hear the booming power of his heartbeat. Before Jaqen could even figure out how Cain achieved such shocking speed, his eyes widened as he saw that the blood energy and essence wave of this one had already coalesced around the blade in the form of a maelstrom.
Blood space vortex.
Cain shouted as he finished his spell, ready to unleash all its power toward the Deus behemoth. However, as he was about to wave Slaughter forward and release the vortex, his eyes narrowed as he saw Jaqen's left fist flashing toward his face. Despite the shock and little time to prepare, Jaqen could still fire a punch with his free hand, charging it with a massive amount of burning energy and astral wave. Any normal essence cultivator would be forced to pull back in the face of such an attack, as no matter how strong their spells were, they could not compare with the physical might of an astral rebirth cultivator. However, Cain was not a normal essence cultivator. His eyes burst with red light as he pushed the full power of blood space vortex forward and used his void blood shield to protect himself, reinforcing the zone where the blow would land with essence wave.
BOOOOOMMMMMs. BOOOOOMMMMs.
The battle had started less than a second ago, and two massive explosions echoed inside the void fire cauldron, drawing everybody's attention, including that of Gordon, Sima, Law, and Samuel. One of the explosions was a vortex of blood energy and space force, burying Jockin's body deeper and deeper into the ceiling of the chamber. The other occurred as Cain's figure was blasted toward one of the walls with a force that could have obliterated a mountain range. The people of the Volcano clan focused on the ceiling as the vortex had overwhelming power, and Jockin took it point blank. However, those from the Zanginis clan and Soli's clan turned to the hole in the wall as they all saw the power with which Cain crashed, and it was something not even Earth Tribulation Masters could endure without severe injuries. Suddenly, a shout emerged from the ceiling, and a blast of astral wave emerged, blasting the vortex to pieces as Jockin descended. His body was covered in bloody wounds, but there were no internal injuries, thanks to the dark purple matrix that covered his flesh. The Deus Behemoth had triggered the full power of his astral blood ability before the attack landed point blank, or else the damage would have been much worse. However, Jockin showed no happiness about his body's endurance and focused on the hole in the wall, seeing a figure emerging from it. If people were surprised with Jockin's endurance when they saw Cain, they were all dumbfounded. The Godslayer human had received a direct punch to the face, but other than a small bruise and a trail of blood in the corner of his mouth, he was perfectly fine. His body, it was like hitting a piece of platinum metal. How can an essence cultivator from the Godslayer human race achieve such endurance? Jockin was genuinely stunned as he knew just how much power was in his fist, yet he did little to no damage to Cain. Cain noticed everybody's eyes focused on him, but he did not care. Revealing the unique constitution of his body was not the same as revealing his astral cultivation. He only took a deep breath as his heartbeat once again exploded with power, pushing third gear to the absolute limit, along with a burst of dark golden flames that pushed his physical might to an even higher degree.
ZNN end.
Not giving Jockin even a second to rest, Cain flashed into the sky, his body revolving, seemingly transforming into a tornado of blood energy and space force. Once again, everybody was surprised to see the essence cultivator Godslayer human intending to transform the fight into a melee battle. Cain's battle style also took Jockin aback. Still, as a seasoned warrior, he managed to erase all those useless thoughts and simply clenched his teeth, flashing forward as the full power of his body gathered on his halberd, which ignited with dark fire.
BOOOOOMMMMMs.
The halberd and the blade clashed in the center of the void fire cauldron, unleashing a massive explosion. To the shock of all, Jockin could not push Cain flying away, and their weapons were connected, each trying to overcome the other. For someone with weak cultivation, it might seem that Cain's physical strength equaled that of Jockin, but that could not be further from the truth. Cain had increased his body's talk and enhanced its strength with radiance of strength before unleashing it all in one strike of his blade, which carried a quantum laceration. Jockin was aware of all that, but it only made Cain's might even more remarkable in his eyes. If the young man could match his physical strength, it was one thing, but the level of skill he performed was much more impressive. Continue your journey with Freeweb Novel. A smile began to appear on the Deus Behemoth's face as he felt his opponent's strength, and his blood burning with fighting will as he unleashed more and more of his power. Cain maintained focus and blocked everything else out as his eyes glowed with golden light, and perceived the movement of every muscle fiber, tendon, and stream of energy in the body of the Deus Behemoth.
Boom.
A new explosion echoed as the power in both weapons repelled each other, pushing the Deus Behemoth and Godslayer human back. Still, they were able to regain control over their bodies nearly immediately and returned to the fray.
Boom. 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 Boom.
More and more explosions echoed as Cain clashed head-on with Jaqen, allowing the explosive might of his spell to detonate right before the Deus Behemoth. Jaqen intercepted all the attacks from Cain, but there was little he could do about the blasts of blood energy and space force that kept leaving wounds on his body. He could only use his astral blood ability to improve his physical defenses and endure the explosions. After nearly a minute and their weapons clashing thousands of times, Jaqen raised the halberd only to lower it the next second with immense power, but Cain had already anticipated that move. He used Slaughter to strike the weapon at the right angle, pushing it to the side before sending a punch. Usually, the punch of an essence cultivator would do nothing to an astral cultivator. Still, Jaqen felt his jaw almost break as that strike carried all of Cain's talk and generated a blast of energy upon impact. However, Jaqen was not the only one who took damage as he managed to send a knee strike to Cain's chest. In the end, both of them were pushed hundreds of meters away from each other. Jaqen showed a fierce smile as he regained control over his body and expected to clash with Cain again, but unlike him, the Godslayer human could fire attacks from such a distance without a problem. Before Jaqen could even take a step forward, an arc of blasting blood energy appeared before him. The man waved his halberd, shattering the attack without a problem, but just as the attack was destroyed, he detected Cain's presence on his right and saw a new arc of blood energy coming his way. Jaqen had just moved his halberd to intercept it, but before the attack could even land, Cain had seemingly teleported to his right and sent a new arc of blood energy. If that wasn't enough, the Godslayer human appeared behind him and sent another quantum laceration. Damn it. Jaqen could only shout inside his mind as Cain's mastery over the law of space and assassination technique made it impossible for him to track his opponent, and he was now overwhelmed by arcs of blood energy coming from every possible direction. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 554, Law Fragmentation of the Law of Space. Gordon, Zamuel, Law, and Sima were engaged in their respective fights, yet none were overexerting themselves as they couldn't help but divert some of their focus to the battle between Cain and Jaqen. Each of the Four was a supreme genius from their respective clan, considered among the best cultivators of the younger generation in the Deus Behemoth Empire, with destinies that could help them become titans in the future. However, the incredible might displayed by the Godslayer human, Cain, was simply astounding. Cain moved so swiftly that even the Four began to see afterimages of the Godslayer human surrounding Jaqen, witnessing dozens of arcs of blood energy raining down on the Jew's behemoth from every direction every second. Those who focused on the essence evolution path of power were even more astounded as they perceived the might of the law of space and how Cain's mastery of its power increased with every attack he unleashed. Cain's eyes were a mix of focus and trance as he used spatial phase to maneuver around Jaqen, unleashing dozens of quantum lacerations every second. Thanks to his instincts, part of his mind was engaged in the battle, but most of it was engrossed in understanding the Crimson Void cultivation technique, as his grasp of the law of space sublimated during the fight. Jaqen wielded his halberd with all his might, shattering all the arcs of blood energy launched at him, but that was the extent of his capability. Cain's attacks had effectively created a prison around him. If the Deus Behemoth were to stop his defensive formation and attempt to escape, the quantum lacerations would overwhelm him. These attacks are powerful, but must demand a massive amount of energy. Even for a monstrous genius, sustaining such energy consumption for a long period is impossible with the cultivation base of a middle-wave king. I just need to endure for a few more minutes. Jaqen's assessment was correct. Despite the assistance of the gluttony module, Cain's energy was depleting rapidly. Unfortunately for the Deus Behemoth, before Cain's energy could run out, the sense of enlightenment in his eyes reached its zenith. Jaqen noticed the change in the young human, but he had no time to ponder it. The frequency at which the arcs of blood energy fell on him tripled, and their power increased significantly to the point where he could no longer defend himself from all with his halberd.
Law fragmentation of the law of space.
This thought echoed in the minds of everyone witnessing Cain and Jaqen's battle, inspiring utter awe as they realized that the young Godslayer human had managed to advance the law of space to the law fragmentation stage. This feat was as impressive as pushing the law of blood to the extreme law fragmentation, and even more shocking considering Cain had no bloodline aiding his understanding of it. The one who felt this power most acutely was Jaqen. The Deus Behemoth clenched his teeth, continuing to destroy the most potent arcs of blood energy while pushing his astral blood ability to its limit to endure the onslaught. Suddenly, Jaqen saw all the arcs of blood energy vanish, along with the afterimages Cain had generated. Although the cessation of attacks should have been a relief, Jaqen's instincts screamed danger, and he turned around only to see the Godslayer human behind him, blade raised above his head. Cain's eyes were sharp as he stared down at Jaqen with the raised slaughter. Waving the weapon down was all Cain would need to unleash the strongest attack of the Void Crimson cultivation technique, a spell so potent that its creator had once cleaved a vertical structure the size of Blade Mountain in half. Jaqen clenched his teeth, feeling the immense power in the blade. He knew that unleashing such an attack would create a significant backlash for Cain and drain all his energy, but he wasn't sure if he could survive the direct hit.
Oh, I surrender.
Ultimately, the Deus Behemoth could only sigh as he accepted his defeat. There was no point in continuing the fight. Even if Cain blacked out after firing that spell, the injuries would likely leave him comatose at best. Hearing Jaqen's surrender, Cain did not lower slaughter, but instead turned to Gordon and Sima. The wounds on the duo were superficial since they hadn't fully engaged in their fight, being distracted by Cain's battle. Even so, taking that attack head-on would not be wise. Gordon and Sima exchanged glances and sighed, distancing themselves from their opponents. Even with Cain wounded and his energy nearly depleted, if the Godslayer human joined forces with Law and Zamuel, victory would be unattainable for them.
Essence cultivators from the Volcano clan, refrain from entering the Void Fire until the people from the Solis clan and Zagnini's clan have completed their training.
Gordon's voice was resolute.
The same goes for the essence cultivators of the Ursa clan.
Sima did not delay things as she uttered the command as well. Although the essence cultivators were displeased, there was little they could do. Besides, they could still cultivate their auxiliary body refinement techniques later, so there was no point in complicating matters. Cain lowered slaughter after hearing these commands and began to calm the raging energy within his meridians. The explosive spells and energy output had put immense stress on his body, and while they left no visible wounds, recovery would still take some time. However, none of this erased Cain's smile as he flashed towards a corner of the Void Fire cauldron and submerged in the molten bronze-like liquid. The next second, the spatial spheres emerged, forming a 100-meter domain around him. The Deus Behemoths could only sigh as they observed this domain, which blocked all their senses. They were left to speculate about the secrets behind the Godslayer human's overwhelming constitution. The warriors of the Zanginis and Solis clans were already accustomed to Cain's secrets, so they didn't concern themselves with it and headed into the Void Fire. The astral cultivators used the liquid to enhance their cultivation base, while those on the essence evolution path of power improved their auxiliary body refinement techniques. Cain rested inside the Void Fire for 3 hours, utilizing the radiance of life to enhance his regenerative abilities until he was back at his peak. Before anything else, Cain took control of the Starworm's essence within his demonic devourer dimension, creating a continuous stream into his essence star. Then, he fully delved into the Void Fire, allowing it to enter his body and course through his veins. The Void Fire was an incredibly potent liquid, full of extremely powerful burning life force. Although helpful, even astral cultivators had to be cautious due to its scorching nature, but not Cain. Your next read is at Freeweb Novel. He had already reached the 3rd level of the Solar Blaze path and formed a blazing core inside his rebirth heart. This granted his astral wave the power of sunlight and heat. Due to the properties of his astral wave, Cain could directly channel the Void Fire through his blood, enhancing the power of his blazing core and astral blood saturation. This pushed his cultivation and foundation forward at an overwhelming speed. Every warrior inside the void fire generated a whirlpool around their bodies due to the potency with which they consumed the liquid. Astral cultivators obviously created a stronger whirlpool than essence cultivators. Those from the Solis and Vulcano clan generated even mightier whirlpools than the Ursa and Zanguini's clans due to their proficiency with scorching fosses and heat. Samuel glanced at Godin and narrowed his eyes. The whirlpool he generated was roughly 400 meters in diameter, but the man from the Vulcano clan reached 420 meters. Godin noticed Samuel's gaze and smiled, proudly displaying his robust foundation. However, his smile soon froze as he noticed Kane's 350-meter whirlpool with the Nexus blood domain at its center. Although smaller than his, Kane was a wave king, so it made sense he would require less energy. And that was not even the most shocking part.
Isn't he supposed to be an essence cultivator? How is he consuming so much void fire?
Godin was so confused and shocked that he couldn't help but vocalize his thoughts aloud, but no one blamed him since it was truly astonishing. They had come to accept that Kane had a surprisingly robust constitution, but it still didn't make sense why his body would require so much void fire. Fully immersed in his cultivation, Kane revolved his astral wave throughout his body, pushing his cultivation forward. The powers of sunlight, energy, and heat grew more potent as his body adapted better to them. Finally, on the 19th day since entering the void fire, Kane opened his eyes, feeling his body tremble as the blazing car grew stronger, and the amount of astral wave inside his body surged with power. Thanks to the constant refinement and help of the void fire, he managed to advance his astral cultivation to the middle wave king level. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 555, The Gravitas Clan. Not wasting the opportunity, Kane used the bursting power of his energy pool to superpotentiate the metamorphosis of his blood cells, pushing forward his astral blood saturation with all his power. It didn't take long for his energy pool to stabilize, and Kane felt every fiber of his body growing stronger. System. Shouting the command in his mind, Kane activated the Absolute Life Form system, which began to scan his body. Scanning vessel. Find more to read at Freeweb Novel. Scan of vessel completed. Name, Kane Lorifa. Race, Godslayer humankind. Path of power, Astral Rebirth Middle Wave King, Essence Evolution Middle Wave King. Lineage, Solis lineage, Maximum Purity. Wave Talent, Extreme Tier 9, Extreme Tier 9. Stats. Strength, 109, 152 Fa. Agility, 65, 289 6. Vitality, 124, 189 5. Astral Wave, 83, 116 3. Essence Wave, 91, 124 3. Blood Energy Astral, 154 200 2. Blood Energy Essence, 123, 220 2. Astral Blood Saturation, 67% completion. Main Law Mastery, Law of Blood Extreme Law Fragmentation. Secondary Law Mastery, Law of Space Low Law Fragmentation. Note, Wave Virus inside the vessel enhanced wave talent by 28.1%. Kane's eyes sparkled with thrill as he observed the increased power of his body and energy pools after breaking through in the Essence Evolution Path of Power and the Astral Rebirth Path of Power. His wave talent had increased significantly after the evolution of his Law of Space, reaching what seemed to be the actual limit of Tier 9, and he felt he was just one step away from the next stage. His body and energy pools improved significantly, but the most notable rise was in his blood energy essence, likely due to his Law of Blood already being at the limit of the Law fragmentation stage. The astral blood saturation had significantly increased, especially considering that the first 50% was the easiest part, and from there on, it would be an uphill race. Reaching 80% was the mark of a genius with a chance to reach the divine realm, while 90% was a threshold only those with immense talent, hard work, and resources had the slightest opportunity to attain. 67% of astral blood saturation, as a middle wave, King gave Cain an extremely good chance of reaching beyond 90% before the bone calamity, and there was a chance he could do the impossible and push it to 100%. That was a feat worthy of true gods and true titans. After analyzing the state of his body and energy pool, Cain continued revolving the void fire through his body, this time with even greater power as his energy pool had increased in size and required more fuel. The people from the clans had all achieved a balance using the power of the void fire chamber, when suddenly they saw the whirlpool forming around the blood domain begin to grow larger. It didn't take long before it became as massive as Samuel's. The warriors from all the clans looked at each other, unable to understand how Cain, an essence cultivator, could have a body that needed to devour as much void fire as Samuel, an apotheosis master on the brink of the bone calamity. Godin and Saima, unaccustomed to the surprises surrounding the Godslayer human, were once again shocked, but no longer wasted time trying to understand the enigmatic genius from the Gaia continent and focused on their own cultivation. Cain continued inside the void fire, using the Nexus blood domain to mask his presence from everyone else, allowing him to revolve his astral wave at full power and further his cultivation. On the 41st day, Cain opened his eyes and ceased his cultivation, sensing that the power of the void fire was no longer effective. Like his experiences with the elixir of astral purity and the essence astral air, Cain's body and energy pools had adapted to the overwhelming power of the void fire, and it was no longer efficient to focus on it. He cloaked his astral cultivation with the red mask and rose into the sky the next second. Most astral wave cultivators had already emerged from the void fire, with only a few still drawing power from it. Cain noticed that Law and Samuel were still inside, but didn't pay much attention, instead waiting at the entrance of the void fire cauldron with the rest of the people from the Zanginis clan and Soli's clan. The people from all four clans observed Cain, trying to decipher the key behind his power and how his body could endure the consumption of such a vast sea of void fire despite being an essence cultivator. Cain paid no attention to their curious gazes and began to rest. After nearly a month and a half of intense cultivation using very powerful resources, he knew it was best to rest for the time being instead of applying more pressure on his body and energy pools. 4 days after Cain, Samuel and Law finally emerged, leaving no one else from the Soli's clan and Zanginis clan inside the void fire. Godin and Saima had exited the liquid earlier that day. When they saw the dew from the Soli's clan and Zanginis clan leave, they signaled to their clan's essence cultivators that it was their turn to take advantage of the void fire. Even diluted, it should be more than enough for them. Samuel and Law nodded to the dew from the Volcano clan and Ursa clan and returned with their group. Once regrouped, the people from the Soli's clan and Zanginis clan moved back through the passage they had arrived from. The crushing walls were still a challenge on their way back, but fortunately, they reacted more fiercely on the way to the void fire cauldron than on the way out. Using their treasures, the Soli's clan and Zanginis clan returned to the Grey Road relatively easily. The group reached the middle of the Grey Road and turned to Cain. His eyes wandered around the passages, and upon detecting no strong energy fluctuations, he signaled, and they began to move forward. Cain and the warriors from the Soli's clan and Zanginis clan had been moving forward in the Grey Road for nearly 3 hours when suddenly his eyes narrowed. He was not getting anxious about not locating a path since it could take days before finding a route toward one of the chambers. The reason for Cain's sudden focus was that he detected a fluctuation in space approaching them at a shocking speed. Without saying a word, he stopped flying and took out Slaughter. Samuel and Law immediately raised their awareness when Cain took out his weapon. The duo did not detect anything, but had seen just how sharp the Godslayer humans' instincts were, so they prepared themselves for a fight and sent a signal for the rest to do the same. All the Zanginis clan and Soli's clan warriors adopted solemn expressions as they waited. After a few seconds, Samuel and Law also focused on the distance. Although they could not perceive the disturbance in space like Cain, they detected a strange and hidden force nearing them. Cain's eyes grew sharper, and the golden light in them burst as he pushed the flow to the limit in order to face the presence hidden in the distortion of space nearing them. However, just as there were less than 1,000 meters between them, the disturbance in space seemed to have suddenly changed its path and entered one of the lanes on the side of Grey Road. Cain could not help but frown as he was confused by the sudden phenomenon, but things grew clearer the next moment when he noticed a group of 5 Jews behemoths flashing toward them in the distance.
Members of the Gravitas clan, and it seems they are injured.
Zamuel and Law also noticed the group and did not lower their guards just because they could see the people approaching them. The warriors from the Gravitas clan all wore heavy armor, and wing-like fins were emerging from their backs, allowing them to move at a shocking speed despite their massive bodies. The one leading the group was a Deus behemoth that was even larger than Jaqen, reaching a towering 3 meters in height, and there seemed to be a crushing gravitational field around his body. The 5 members of the Gravitas clan stopped moving once they were nearly 100 meters away from the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan.
Zamuel and Law, it seems that you two have obtained a lot of gains already.
Zamuel and Law stared at the man leading the Gravitas as this one uttered those words.
I wish I could say the same about you, Norton. However, it seems that you find some problems.
Zamuel spoke in a relaxed tone, but did not lower his guard for a moment, as he knew just how dangerous the man in front of him was.
Actually, you might help us with it. We are chasing a thief from the Fenrir clan. That little shit and the rest of the dogs ambushed us and stole our treasure.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 556, Blood Monsters. Zamuel and Law looked at each other as they heard Naughton's words. The Gravitas clan was extremely powerful and considered at the zenith of the 10 great bloodlines. Overall, the Gravitas clan was actually even stronger than the Volcano clan. Unfortunately for them, the Volcano clan gave birth to a monster named Ian, whose overwhelming individual power was unmatched by anyone in the Deus Behemoth Empire, which was why they were not able to secure the position of the imperial family. Of course, even if they were not the imperial family, being on good terms with the Gravitas clan was wise, especially since the Fenrir clan was accused of robbery. Sharing their knowledge and helping find a thief would help right a wrong. However, Zamuel and Law were not naive. They couldn't simply believe Naughton's words. Who's to say it wasn't the Gravitas clan playing the thief, chasing a member of the Fenrir clan to steal from them? If they were to help the Gravitas clan, they would be accessories to theft and would gain nothing for it other than the animosity of the Fenrir clan.
Sorry, but the members of the Fenrir clan are adept at hiding their tracks using the law of space. We have no idea where they went.
Zamuel said without hesitation. He didn't want to be part of whatever drama was unfolding between the Fenrir and Gravitas clans, and his statement was true since he had only managed to perceive a presence and could not pinpoint the exact whereabouts. Naughton's eyes narrowed as he focused on Zamuel and the rest of the Solis and Zangini's clans for a few seconds before softly nodding, believing their words. However, before Naughton led his group away, another member of the Gravitas clan stepped forward and focused on Cain.
You are a master of the law of space, so surely you must have some insights regarding the whereabouts of the Fenrir clan warriors. I am sure you want to do the right thing and help us.
Cain assessed the member of the Gravitas clan who spoke to him. Like his fellow warriors, the man had a massive body with fin-like wings on his back, and he emanated a remarkable gravitational power. He is Yorick. He might not be the strongest of the Gravitas clan's younger generation. Still, he is extremely wise and cunning, so don't underestimate him, son Avatar. Zamuel's voice echoed in Cain's mind, revealing the identity of the Gravitas clan man that pushed the spotlight on him. Continue reading at Free Web Novel. Yorick's statement directed the entire group's focus onto Cain, their stares laden with the gravitational power of their bloodlines. Most would feel immense pressure under such scrutiny, but Cain maintained complete control over his emotions. Even if he wasn't a Master Vada, the gaze of a group of Apotheosis Masters couldn't shake him. After all, he had faced true Titans and severed the arms of Divine Ascension Masters, so how could the group from the Gravitas clan affect his mind?
Well, do you know anything about it?
Naughton asked, surprised by Cain's calm demeanor.
I know, but I see no reason to share that knowledge. Whether the Fenrir clan member stole from you or you want to steal from them, it doesn't matter to me. I will not get involved in your problems.
Cain responded directly. As expected, The Gravitas clan didn't take well to his reply, and a coldness appeared in their eyes.
Are you sure about your answer?
Naughton's voice was eerily cold, his eyes flashing with fighting intent. Despite the numerical disadvantage, he showed no fear and seemed ready to fight Cain and anyone who dared to stand in his way. Naughton's behavior could be considered overbearing, but Cain's reaction was even more tyrannical. Barely after Naughton finished speaking, he moved forward at shocking speed, slaughter in hand, stunning everyone.
Was that a threat? Because for me there is only one answer to a threat.
Naughton's eyes widened as he saw the Godslayer human standing before him. Even though Cain's head only reached his shoulder, he felt as if he were facing a giant, with no doubt in his mind that the Godslayer human was ready to attack with lethal intent.
I asked you a question.
An eerie silence followed Cain's words. His eyes began to glow with a red light, a sundering force emerging from him, ready to explode with the power of the sundering concept. How is this possible? I am an astral rebirth cultivator, and he's an essence evolution cultivator. This short distance is perfect for me, yet my instincts are screaming to put space between us. Naughton clenched his fists. Even though Slaughter hadn't moved, he felt its edge at his neck and doubted he could withstand its attack without sustaining devastating injuries. Naughton's personal power and background usually justified his arrogance, but now he felt cornered. His pride urged him to attack Cain for his overbearing attitude, but his instincts advised otherwise. In the end, Naughton's instincts prevailed. He took a step back and gave Cain one final glance before moving away, promptly followed by the rest of the Gravitas clan. As the Gravitas clan departed, the warriors from the Solis and Zanguini's clans breathed a sigh of relief. The situation had been immensely tense, and despite their numerical advantage, they didn't want to fight such a powerful group. Some looked at Cain with awe for his attitude, while others thought he was too overbearing, preferring the more relaxed approach of Zamuel and Law. Of course, no one dared to reprimand the Godslayer human. Cain didn't oppress people out of pride or fun, but that didn't mean he would let others walk over him. It was better to crush those who thought they could walk over you, or else they might think you were afraid of them and would not stop bullying you. Cain felt no need to explain his behavior and glanced at Law and Zamuel as the group continued marching forward, searching for another of the 6 chambers. His eyes constantly used the flow to detect strong energy frequencies, and a smile appeared on his face after another 5 hours of travel.
There it.
Hearing Cain's words, everyone's eyes shone with anticipation and displayed grand smiles. They were utterly confident in Cain's abilities, so his pointing in a direction meant they were close to another chamber.
Let's go.
Law shouted, and the Solis and Zanguini's clans warriors eagerly marched towards the indicated route. It didn't take them long to encounter monsters resembling beasts made of coagulated blood and sharp bones. Upon seeing these monsters, the warriors' eyes widened with thrill. On the other hand, Cain showed a complicated smile inside. The stark contrast in their expressions related to the function of the next chamber. While it would work wonders for Zamuel, Law, and the others, it would be less effective for Cain. However, that didn't mean Cain would slack off. Without hesitation, he brought out the 9 space spheres and activated the Nexus blood domain to help the group handle the horde of blood monsters. Although the blood monsters were powerful, with their coagulated blood being extraordinarily toxic and their ability to heal themselves by sucking blood from any wounds they inflicted, they were utterly overwhelmed by the combined power of Cain and the others. After going through 3 of the 6 chambers, the group had become very powerful, improving their battle power by at least 20%. Not to mention that now Cain had reached the law of space's law fragmentation. The power and range of his domain improved by at least 50%.
Boom. 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 Boom.
Explosions echoed across the path as the warriors from the Solis clan and Zanguini's clan wreaked havoc, destroying more and more blood monsters. It didn't take long for the ground to be covered in blood and broken bones. Once the group finished with the horde of blood monsters, they began to sift through the broken skulls to obtain gems containing Starworm's essence and Starworm's blood. However, no one touched the coagulated blood. Even members of the Zanguini's clan, who possessed a unique affinity with the element of blood, dared not interact with it due to its toxicity and poisonous energies. In fact, the blood was so toxic that the members of both clans stayed airborne to avoid contact with it. Cain gazed at the toxic coagulated blood on the ground and focused, using the law of blood to take control of it. He raised tons of it, along with the broken bones. It all disappeared before the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan could ask what he was doing. Although the coagulated blood was nothing but toxins for others, the gluttony module could effortlessly handle it. The Solis clan and Zangini's clan members, having already seen the Godslayer human devouring various toxic fosses, did not dwell on it and continued flying forward. There were many crossroads on the way to the chamber, but as before, Cain used the flow to guide them correctly. After nearly a day of flying and facing several hordes of blood monsters, they finally saw it. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 557, Astral Bloodline Chamber. The chamber had clean walls and was by far the largest of the 6 inside the astral bloodline realm, even greater than the massive void fire cauldron, which could accommodate the fight of 6 entities with more power than a nuclear reactor. At the center of this enormous chamber was a fossilized, bulging sphere from which waves of scorching radiation emerged, so powerful that they had polished the walls, making them resemble a piece of flawless marble. Stay tuned with Freeweb Novel. The name of this chamber was the Astral Bloodline Chamber, named after the power of the fossilized sphere at its center. Although the radiation was lethal, if one had the power to endure it, it could do wonders for one's lineage, improving its purity to an astonishing degree. All the warriors from the Zanginis and Solis clans present were respected members of their clans, constantly receiving benefits from their elders who chose the Warlock path, using the radiation of their patriarch's bloodline foss to improve their bloodlines. However, there was a limit to how much they could benefit, as those elders and even the patriarchs were divine ascension masters, just one rank above them. However, the power of the astral bloodline car at the center of the chamber was so strong that it could help even divine ascension masters. If used properly, it could improve their lineage by leaps and bounds. The reason Cain was not really excited about this chamber was that the astral bloodline Ka had its limits. He obtained his bloodline using the soul bloodline of Lord Kabuto, a true titan at the peak of Ether, so there was little the radiation in this chamber could do for him. In the end, Cain could only smile. He could not get upset because his bloodline was too pure and matched that of a titan of the Deus Behemoth race. Although the Solis clan and Zangini's clan members wanted to move forward, they could not be rash. The energy that made it impossible for anyone, without one of the 10 great bloodlines, to enter the astral bloodline realm without having their blood melt inside their veins originated from this chamber. The radiation inside the astral bloodline chamber was so intense that even their bodies could melt if they were not careful. Luckily, there was no need for outside help, as they could use their own power to face radiation waves. All the warriors from the Zangini's clan and Solis clan took a deep breath as the power of their bloodlines began to gather. A red membrane didn't take long to form above their skin. This membrane would act as a filter, diminishing the power of the radiation that reached their bodies, ensuring it was the right amount for training, but not so intense as to harm their genes and induce cellular destruction. The blood membrane seemed fragile, and it was, as it would be very easy to break it through an attack, and even strong energy fluctuations could shatter it. Therefore, fighting was completely forbidden inside the astral bloodline chamber. You could easily kill someone if you shattered their blood membrane, as the radiation would melt their insides, but the intense fluctuation of your energy pool would also shatter yours, so it would be akin to suicide. Despite these dangers, the Solis clan and Zangini's clan warriors did not hesitate. The moment their blood membranes were formed, they began to advance. Although Cain would not gain significant benefits from this place, he still formed a membrane and advanced deeper into the chamber. Even if the radiation could not help his bloodline much, Cain could try to use its power to temper his body, improving his constitution enough to reach the final level of the Biomtal Herculean technique. As he walked deeper into the astral bloodline chamber, Cain could feel the radiation waves affecting his cells and began to ponder. My mastery over the law of blood will allow me to push the platinum heart level of the biomtal Herculean technique to its limit, but reaching the adamantium soul level will require much more. If I were to push my law of blood to the law integration level, I could engrave the power of the laws into my bones and flesh, circumventing some of the requirements of the technique. Still, even after engraving the law runes inside my organs and skeleton, the physical requirements to endure molten adamantium-level metals in my bloodstream will be shockingly high. I might need to overcome the flesh tribulation to do it. Cain sighed as he understood just how long it would take him to reach the final level of the biomtal Herculean technique. However, if anyone else were to hear his thoughts, they would not know whether to laugh or cry, since not even the creator of the art dared to consider achieving the adamantium soul level before the peak of the apotheosis realm. After all, the adamantium soul level would grant flesh and blood that could match the armor of divine ascension masters, and one's defenses would rise even higher if they were to circulate their astral wave through the interconnected net of metal, fiber, the technique built under their skin. Unaware of how high his standards were compared to all other life forms in ether, Cain continued moving forward, carefully assessing the power of the radiation to energize his cells, but not allowing any harm to happen to the core components of his genetic material. Cain advanced nearly 10,000 meters before finally stopping, as he felt the radiation waves were simply too strong, and his bloodline membrane would not be able to protect him anymore from the harmful effects of the energy waves. As he ensured the filtering power of his bloodline membrane, Cain focused on the astral bloodline car in the distance, looking at it with wonder and awe. I'm not even 1/3 of the way in. The radiation beneath the astral bloodline car must be enough to melt even my body, which is stronger than normal apotheosis-level armor. After gazing at the majestic structure floating in the chamber's car, Cain adopted a meditative position on the ground. He took a deep breath as he began to harness the power of the radiation with his body. The rest of the Solis clan and Zanguini's clan members had done the same, using the power of the radiation to improve their bloodlines. Although they were using the power for different purposes, whether it was Cain or the members of the Zanguini's and Solis clans, they were all extremely careful not to unleash any energy fluctuation, as losing their bloodline membrane here could be deadly. Minutes became hours, and hours became days as the warriors harnessed the power of the radiation from the astral bloodline Ka to improve their lineage. Around the 19th day, a member of the Zanguini's clan opened his eyes from meditation and immediately began to move back to the chamber entrance. Although the man did not use his wave, he moved very fast and did not stop until he was outside, and only then did he relax. The man's face was pale, and there was an exhausted expression on his face as a small trail of blood began to leak from his nose. Even if the bloodline membrane could filter most of the harmful radiation, there was still some accumulated damage gathering inside the Deus Behemoth's body. Luckily, the man was wise enough to come out before the damage turned severe. Although he was tired, the smile on his face was undeniable the moment he felt just how much his lineage had improved. It didn't take long for another person to wake up from her meditation. This time, it was a member of the Solis clan, Kenia. Like the man from the Zanguini's clan, she moved out of the astral bloodline chamber before deactivating her bloodline membrane. One by one, the members of the Zanguini's clan and Solis clan began to exit the bloodline chamber with broad smiles. Soon, the only ones left inside were Cain, Law, and Zamuel. The Trius bloodline was the strongest of all, giving them a natural resistance to the harmful effects of the radiation. Still, they were not immune, and by the 24th day, the trio exited the astral bloodline chamber. Cain's face was pale as he reached the astral bloodline chamber's entrance, but he had a wide smile like everyone else. Although the radiation did not help his bloodline, it improved his body significantly in terms of resilience. Of course, he didn't just focus on that, as he used the time to revolve the starworm's essence and starworm's blood, improving his cultivation base on both paths. Cain was still far from the late wave king rank, but advancing quickly. Even after everyone exited the chamber, no one left. It wasn't that they would return, as there was not much gain in doing so, but before returning to the main route, everybody wanted to heal their bodies and take care of the harmful effects of the radiation. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 558, Radiance of Valor I. As they improved their constitution, Law turned to Cain with a look full of awe and wonder.
I must say, great-grandfather was right in saying we would be lucky by following your guide, Lord Lorifer. At this rate, we might be able to visit all 6 chambers, something that has never happened in the entire history of the astral bloodline realm.
When the warriors of the Zanguini's clan and Solis clan heard those words, they all turned toward Cain with eyes full of awe and admiration, as well as great gratitude. There was a limited amount of time that the astral bloodline realm would stay open, and once it was over, they would all be expelled. The time the astral bloodline realm remained open each time varied, but was between 8 to 10 months, which sounded more than enough to take advantage of every single chamber, but it was not so simple. Usually, a genius would need between 1 and 1.5 months to take full advantage of the divine powers of each chamber, which would be enough to use all 6 chambers. Still, you must consider that not everybody had a guide capable of instantly figuring out the right path like Cain. Other groups had to test their luck and guide themselves using the knowledge their elders managed to amass, and they would be lucky if they found a chamber after half a month of searching.
Hahaha, of course, Colonel Lorifer is awesome. After all, he is the sun avatar, canonized by our patriarch.
Zamiel nearly shouted, excitement evident on his face. He felt uncomfortable the first time he learned that a Godslayer human would become his clan's sun avatar. However, now he couldn't be happier about it, and he was not alone, as all the members of the Solis clan showed the same pride. Many Solis clan hoped Cain would remain in the Deus Behemoth Empire after the astral bloodline realm, as he would be a great addition to the empire. Cain showed a small smile and nodded to the Deus Behemoths, but did not say much. He had indeed come to appreciate them as they were all very hardworking, but that was it. It was not their fault, nor did they do something wrong, but as a master of order, it was very hard for him to form relationships since his emotions were dominant. The members of the Solis clan and Zanguini's clan were already used to the stoic nature of the young man, so they just smiled as they carried on healing their bodies, preparing to return to their peak before moving back to the Grey Root and searching for the next chamber. It took around 15 hours for the warriors from the Solis clan and Zanguini's clan to return to their peak. Without wasting time, they made their way back to the Grey Road, all brimming with excitement at the prospect of being the first Deus Behemoths to visit all 6 chambers and the improvements they could gain, which might be enough to allow them to reach the mighty divine realm. Cain was just as excited as the others, as the 2 remaining chambers would greatly help his body and mind. However, just as he was about to return to the Grey Road, his eyes widened in shock and danger.
Ambush.
Cain barely managed to utter the word before waving his hand and releasing the 9 space spheres, hastily forming the Blood Nexus domain. Instead of a domain, the Blood Nexus domain took a shield-like form in front of Cain and the others. Zamiel, Law, and all the other warriors from the Solis clan and Zanguini's clan were shocked by Cain's words and actions, as none of them had detected anything. However, during the past months, they had developed an unconscious sense of trust and reliance on the Godslayer human. Hence, their bodies instinctively reacted, bursting with all their power as they took out their weapons. The warriors from the Zanguini's clan and Solis clan had barely raised their defenses when a massive shadow appeared in front of them, blocking the path to the Grey Road. But that was just the beginning, as the shadow began revolving before forming a gargantuan shark-like avatar that surged forward with immense momentum and speed. The gargantuan shadow shark was so immense that it occupied the entire road and pierced through the Blood Nexus domain in its shield form, shattering it to pieces without much problem before lunging toward the warriors from the Zanguini's clan and Solis clan with a power that could kill divine ascension masters. Cain, Law, Zamiel, and all the others roared as they channeled what little energy they could accumulate in such a short window of time and struck toward the gargantuan shadow avatar. A massive explosion echoed as the combined power of Cain and the warriors from the Zanguini's clan and Solis clan clashed with the gargantuan shadow avatar, bursting it apart. Although Kane and the others were able to reduce the gargantuan shark's power significantly with their attacks, the explosion still sent them flying back onto the road while spewing mouthfuls of blood. Despite the wounds they received and the shock that assaulted their minds, Kane and the Deus behemoths from the Solis clan and Zanginis clan were all seasoned warriors, so they pushed their minds to their peaks as they regained control over their bodies and gathered, adopting a battle formation. Kane stood at the head of the battle formation, and soon the space spheres returned to him. They were full of cracks due to the power of the Shadow Avatar's crash, but were still useful. His eyes were sharp, and his ego wave was bursting at full power as he gazed ahead with pure coldness and killing intent. It was not hard to figure out who was responsible for the attack. Soon, 10 figures emerged from the shadows, all warriors with sharp fins on their arms and legs and auras that seemed to fade at any moment.
Talon, what does the Umbra clan think it's doing?
Zamiel shouted at the man leading the group, his eyes full of killing intent. He knew that had it not been for Kane's wanting an intervention, that Shadow Avatar would have caused much more damage and possibly killed a few of them. Law did not say a word, but he unleashed the same killing intent as Kane and Zamiel, and it was clear to all that the man from the Zanginis clan was ready to kill. Talon did not bother with Zamiel and Law, focusing only on Kane, a sharp light appearing in his eyes. He was proud of his assassination skills, and the last attack took a lot of preparation and the use of precious treasures. Yet, due to the interference of the young man, they did little damage.
You don't want to talk? Fine. I will get my answer after ripping your chest open.
Seeing that Talon was not offering any words, Law finally spoke, his words filled with murderous intent as his astral wave burst with even greater power. That worked as a signal as all the warriors from the Zanginis clan did the same, and it didn't take long for Zamiel and the others to follow suit. Even though the Shadow Avatar injured them, that shallow damage could not weaken their battle power. Not to mention, they outnumbered the Umbra clan 2-1. However, before they could step forward, Kane raised his hand, stopping them.
Do you still plan to hide?
Kane's eyes were icy as he focused on a corner behind the Umbra clan. Kane's words surprised the members of the Zanginis clan and Solis clan, but Talon and the members of the Umbra clan were the most shocked. Talon couldn't help but shout. It was one thing for Kane to detect their attack, as any energy fluctuation was hard to conceal, but the fact that he managed to uncover even them was too much.
Ha 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 ha, Colonel Lorifer, your abilities are astonishing. It seems that it was not just that bloody fool's stupidity that allowed you to escape our ambush in the Gaia continent.
Along with that voice, 10 more figures emerged from the shadows, and these were none other than the people of the Kraken clan. Leading the group was a young man who seemed to be in the prime of his life, radiating a shockingly powerful aura. Zamiel and Law couldn't help but glance at each other as they looked at the young man. They had no idea who he was and did not recall seeing him enter the astral bloodline realm with them. He is Nakuo. Kane's voice echoed inside the minds of the warriors from the Zanginis clan and Solis clan, shocking everyone. They couldn't help but focus once again on the young man, noticing the resemblance. Still, they couldn't understand how Nakuo achieved such a massive change. He is just a vessel. Someone else is controlling his body. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 559, Radiance of Vala It. Law and Zamiel were once again shocked by those words, and the somber expression on their faces only grew worse. The fact that someone managed to take control of Nakuo inside the astral bloodline realm meant that this person had come with them and managed to hide from the perception of true titans like the Emperor of the Deus Behemoth Empire. Kane noticed the somber expressions on the duo and didn't blame them, as he also felt his instincts screaming danger. However, soon, his attention was drawn to the people around Nakuo, noting how all the warriors from the Kraken clan had blank expressions on their faces, no different than mindless automatons. Unlike Kane, Nakuo showed a calm smile as he walked forward, his eyes beginning to glow with soul force, instantly generating shocking pressure on the warriors of the Zanginis clan and Solis clan.
Warriors of the Deus Behemoth Empire, I am the Soul King. one of the 10 Dark Kings of the organization.
Although they were just words, hearing them instilled a sense of fear in the hearts of the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan. Even if the organization operated in the Gaia continent, there was no one in Ether who did not know its fame and just how impressive the 10 Dark Kings were. The power of the organization was so immense that some considered it the 7th great power of Ether, only slightly weaker than the 6 sacred races. The Dark Kings were the higher-ups of that massive underworld organization, their power matching that of true titans, able to face even the emperors. Thus, being in the presence of one was akin to facing death itself. A small smile appeared on the Soul King's face as he saw the expressions of the Deus behemoths, but it turned into a frown when he saw the calmness and coldness in Cain's eyes, as if his title and fame gathered over thousands of years meant nothing to the young man. HMPH, insignificant rat. Coldness appeared in the Soul King's demeanor before his smile returned, and his eyes glowed with even stronger soul force as he glanced again at the Deus behemoths from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan.
You are lucky as today I feel magnanimous. Warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan, I am willing to let you live as long as you move out of my way, so I can take care of that small pest from the Godslayer human race.
Strange expressions appeared on the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan as they heard the Soul King's words. They began to glance at each other, and it didn't take long for some of them to cautiously move back. Cain noticed their gazes but remained silent, focusing on the Soul King with pure calmness as the red light in his eyes grew more and more powerful. A sharp light appeared in the Soul King's eyes as he saw how just a few members of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan moved away from Cain, and even they were still not far and had not made up their minds. The soul force in the Soul King's eyes grew even stronger as the smile on his face vanished, and soon a fearsome killing intent flooded the area.
You better move out of my path, or I assure you, death will be the least of your concerns. I am a master of the soul path and a puppeteer, and each of you is a perfect specimen. If you don't move right now, I assure you I will add you to my collection.
The warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan trembled as they heard those words, imagining themselves being dissected alive, their inner organs replaced, and their minds sealed, becoming living puppets. The fear was so intense that more and more members of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan began to move away from Cain, with even Zamuel and Law doing the same. All of them showed expressions of shame, but the fear was simply too much, and they were not ready to face death. Cain saw how he was slowly being left alone, but did not say a word, simply lowering his head to hide his face. It didn't take long for Cain to be completely alone, making a cold and nasty smile appear on the Soul King's face as the soul force in his eyes shook.
Ha ha ha, what about now, insect? Where was that calmness from before? Don't tell me you are too afraid to even look at me.
The Soul King's voice was cold as he uttered those words, but then a frown appeared as the soul force in his eyes destabilized.
How bothersome it is to handle the emotions of an old fool. Let's finish this fast.
The Soul King uttered those words aloud, clearly speaking to himself, not caring what others thought. He raised his hand, about to signal the Umbra clan to move forward when he saw Cain's body begin to glow with a powerful red light.
I am Cain Lorifer.
Those words made the red light burst with even greater power, flooding the entire area, but it was just the beginning.
I am the Scarlet King.
At this point, Cain raised his head, and the red light in his eyes had reached its zenith, making his eyes glow like miniature suns. The Soul King was shocked to see the determination and willpower behind those eyes, a sense of absolute certainty and will that seemed impossible for a young man not even 20 years old to achieve. He felt something was wrong, but before he could react, Cain spoke again.
And I am the Empyrean sun that sunders all fear and deception.
Cain's voice made his ego wave burst before it collected above him in the form of a yin-yang sun. His alter ego, the sun seed, was released, soon flooding the area with a burning red light.
Radiance of valor.
Talon was shocked to see such a majestic alter ego, having never witnessed anything like it. He could hardly believe someone could envision themselves with such grandeur. Immediately, he raised his god and stood ready to face the power, but as the red light reached him, he felt nothing and noticed it did not harm him at all. The Soul King was also surprised to feel the power of the alter ego not affecting him whatsoever. Yet his eyes widened as he saw how the Solis clan and Zangini's clan members trembled, trails of blood emerging from the corners of their mouths as their eyes began to glow with willpower.
Impossible.
The Soul King couldn't believe what he was seeing. The warriors of the Zangini's clan and Solis clan were quick to move away from Cain after just a few words, because charged inside the Soul King's voice was an imperceptible soul spell that flooded people's hearts and minds with fear. Actually, the Soul King was surprised to realize that the warriors could resist his spell the first time and forced him to use even more power. Yet now Cain was able to help the warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan overcome his soul invasion art. Cain showed a small smile as shock appeared in the eyes of the people of the Zangini's clan and Solis clan, only for it to be soon replaced with rage as they gazed at the Soul King and understood how he had been playing with their minds. It didn't take long for Cain to share that same coldness as he gazed back at the Soul King. The spell he just used was new, but he had mastered its principles from the moment he began to help people through hypnosis to overcome their fears. Using the Empyrean sun visualization technique, he harnessed the power of his sun seed's willpower. He fused it with the ethereal force of the sundering concept, allowing its light to sunder all fear and deceiving powers that could affect one's mind and soul. Zamiel and Law did not hesitate to position themselves between Cain and the Soul King, their eyes glowing with resoluteness and determination, along with a need to prove their honor and courage. The duo was shamed for falling under the spells of the Soul King, but they said nothing. The mighty warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan would use actions to prove themselves and correct their failures. The duo was not alone as all the warriors from both clans moved forward, standing around Cain with eyes that glowed with pure fighting will and killing intent. The Soul King clenched his fists as he stared at the sun seed, and his killing intent grew as deep down. His instincts told him that if he allowed Cain to survive, he would deeply regret it.
Fine, if that is how you want it, then you can all die along with the human.
Bursting astral wave and a powerful oceanic pressure emerged from the Soul King, and he was not alone. The rest of the members of the Kraken clan also unleashed their power, and while their eyes were blank, it was clear they were ready to kill. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 560, The Power of Dual Cultivation, I. Talon couldn't help but sigh as he saw how a battle was about to start and understood the repercussions of what would happen. There was no turning back for him or anyone else in the Umbra clan. He made his astral wave explode, and the rest of the warriors of the Umbra clan did the same. Leave the Soul King to me. Zamiel and Law were surprised to hear Cain's voice. Clearly, the Soul King had transformed Nakuo into a battle vessel and pushed the power of this one to a much higher degree, which would likely unleash battle power at the Divine Ascension realm. Even if Cain was powerful, the duo was even stronger. However, as they saw the Sun Seed, they nodded in agreement, realizing that the Godslayer human was the only one with the power to endure the might of the Soul King's soul force spells. Already Sun Avatar. But be careful, as I am sure his soul spells are even stronger when used in the open and without the need for cloaks. Cain glanced at Zamiel and nodded, but the truth was he was not scared at all. If the Soul King were to use a soul invasion spell on him, the man would surely regret it. No matter how strong the Soul King was, he could not compare with the soul force of the astral blood beast, and that was not just destroyed, but imprisoned by Apex's power. When it comes to facing enemies that mastered soul invasion spells, there was no doubt in Cain's mind that he was the best suited in all of Ether. Since Cain would take care of the Soul King, Zamiel and Law focused on their opponent, with the first staring at Talon while the second turned his gaze toward Robert. Zamiel took out his shot dagger while Law honed his spiked gauntlets, and slaughter appeared in Cain's grasp. All other members of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan also took their weapons and made their wave burst at full power. All hesitation had vanished from Talon's eyes, and a powerful murderous aura surrounded him as silver metal began to encompass the sharp fins on his arms and legs. Robert took out a massive hammer that seemed to carry the pressure of an ocean and made his astral wave burst, but his eyes remained blank, devoid of conscious thought, making it clear he was not in control. The same blank expression could be seen in the rest of the members of the Kraken clan. However, that only made the members of the Kraken clan more dangerous, since Cain and the others knew the Soul King would not hesitate to use the Deus Behemoths for suicide attacks. The Soul King was the last to act, taking out a black broadsword as his astral wave burst with immense power. Cain could feel a dangerous aura emanating from Talon and Robert, but his eyes focused on the Soul King, his opponent. Even though the Dark King was using Nakuo's body as a battle vessel, underestimating him would be a deadly mistake. Silence echoed as both sides looked at each other, and then it happened.
Boom. 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 BOOMs. BOOMMMs. BOOMMMs.
Explosions echoed across the road as Cain and the warriors from the Solis clan and Zangini's clan clashed with the Soul King and the members of the Umbra clan and Kraken clan. Cain flashed forward, meeting the broadsword of the Soul King head-on, generating a blast of blood energy and oceanic pressure between them. Even though his astral cultivation was sealed, his body had grown immensely powerful thanks to the chambers, allowing him to redirect the broadsword without a problem. With the broadsword out of the way, Cain was ready to move Slaughter up and cut Nakuo's neck. Killing Nakuo would not kill the Soul King, but without a vessel, the soul of this one would vanish from the astral bloodline realm. The Soul King's eyes narrowed as he saw Cain's eyes glowing with golden light and redirect his weapon. However, he was not surprised. No matter how weak the enemy was, the Soul King always put his entire effort into a mission, so he was aware of Cain's unique parrying ability. The moment the broadsword was pushed down, the Soul King let go of it. Cain was surprised to see the Soul King letting go of the weapon, but then a sense of utter shock assaulted him. The Soul King immediately raised his hand, and the broadsword teleported back to his grip. Cain's eyes widened as the vanishing of the broadsword threw him off balance. However, that was the least of his problems as the Soul King began to descend the broadsword the next second, and Cain felt his instincts screaming danger.
Thumpy. BOOO.
A powerful heartbeat echoed just before an explosion that made the road tremble, shocking everyone. Samuel and Law couldn't help but glance at the fight between Cain and the Soul King, as that blast was genuinely astonishing, with power neither of them could match. As the explosion dispersed, they saw the Soul King's broadsword embedded in the ground and Cain in the distance, having collided with a wall. Cain hastily moved away from the wall, a somber expression on his face. It wasn't the broadsword that had pushed him into the wall, but him pushing the Usura Farm beyond its peak to gain enough speed to move to the side, resulting in him being unable to stop in time. None of that mattered now as Cain focused on the broadsword again, this time with his eyes full of caution. The weapon, with a black blade and a long hilt, didn't seem special. Still, appearances were deceptive, as the broadsword could instantly teleport back to its wielder's grip, ignoring the energy wave space. Such a skill might not seem very helpful, but it was perfect for facing someone like Cain, who could counter or redirect almost any physical attack. A natural holy weapon. No, it's even rarer than that. And that crushing power at the end must be a skill of the Kraken clan that the Soul King can deploy at its highest power.
Oh, you managed to escape. To be fair, I just obtained this sword a few days ago, so I can't truly use its power yet, but it is still amazing. Consider me impressed.
The Soul King glanced at Cain, and even though he was in the middle of a battlefield with explosions going around him, there was pure calm and serenity in his eyes as the soul force in them seemingly reached its zenith. Cain clenched his grip around Slaughter as he understood the immense power that the Soul King could unleash, even if this one only relied on the battle vessel Nakuo. As for the fact that the Dark King was not using soul invasion spells, it was impossible to say for sure the reason behind it. It might have been just one clash, but it was enough to tell Cain the disparity between them and how low his chances would be in a battle if nothing changed.
I guess I was being too arrogant, thinking I could face one of the 10 Dark Kings in this state.
A smile appeared on the Soul King's face as he heard those words, but then his eyes widened as he saw a stream of dark purple energy bathed in golden burning power emanating from Cain's body. soon becoming a pillar of astral wave.
Dual cultivation.
It wasn't just the Soul King who was shocked to see a burst of astral wave coming from Cain's body. Talon, Law, and Zamiel reacted the same. Everybody knew dual cultivation was taboo and considered a waste of time. The only ones who did that were people with little talent, and even then, the disparity in both paths meant that the improvements the second path could grant were meager. However, Cain was not only considered a monstrous genius at the absolute zenith of ether, but the purity and power of his astral rebirth cultivation did not seem any less than his essence evolution cultivation. The strength of his astral wave was so formidable that no one in the younger generation of the Deus Behemoth Empire could compare with him. Cain felt how his physical power, defenses, and reflexes grew exponentially stronger now that his astral wave was coursing through his veins and meridians at full power, but that was just the beginning. His blood energy, astral, activated the metallic web beneath his skin, pushing his platinum heart to the highest level. After his defenses came the attack, and bloodthirsty runes made with the blood of the Draco lightning frog covered Slaughter. Finally, it was time for speed, and the blood wings emerged from his back, flapping at the same speed as his Usura Farm's heartbeat, so fast that some of the people present could only see a blur.
I admit that your sword treasure took me by surprise, but now that I know its power, it's time for me to show you the full extent of mine.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 561, The Power of Dual Cultivation, Just like the Soul King, Cain's eyes were full of calm and coldness as he uttered those words, and his eyes glowed with a red light that made them resemble suns capable of sundering all darkness. The Soul King and Cain locked eyes, each filled with killing intent, as they calmly walked toward each other, seemingly impervious to the dozens of explosions happening every second around them. The Godslayer human and Dark King were unleashing all the power in their bodies and souls, and only now would the true battle start. Once Cain and the Soul King were precisely 100 meters away from each other, they disappeared, only to reappear the next second in the middle of the battlefield, with Slaughter clashing against the broadsword. Waves of blood energy and powerful oceanic force spread everywhere, forming a tornado, with Cain and the Soul King in the center. The explosion was overwhelming, to the point that the shockwaves pushed those around them away. The only way to describe its power was at the divine ranks. Cain clenched his teeth as he resisted the immense pressure behind the broadsword, feeling the bones in his arms tremble, but he did not pull back. Luckily for him, the sun armor improved his already impressive defensive powers, and the radiance of strength pushed him even higher. The Soul King was also using the full power of his battle vessel. While he surpassed Cain in terms of strength, waves of sharp energy emanated from Slaughter, generating cuts on his arms that could overcome his armor and exoskeleton. Cain and the Soul King roared as they pushed their bodies to the limits before being blasted in opposite directions, crashing into the walls with so much strength that they made holes in them. However, before a second could pass, the duo had flashed back into the fray and continued clashing again. The Soul King raised his broadsword and waved it down at Cain's incoming figure, the crushing oceanic pressure behind the attack overwhelmingly high, capable of leveling an entire city. Cain saw the power of the attack but showed no fear in his eyes. Just as it was about to reach him, his blood wings waved as the power of the space law burst, distorting space.
BOOMMMs.
The Soul King saw the explosion that his broadsword unleashed upon touching the ground, but there was no smile on his face as Cain had managed to vanish before he could connect his attack. It didn't take him long to find the young man, as he only had to turn to the side to see Cain waving Slaughter toward him. Using the law of space, Cain managed to distort space, and by combining the power of Blood Wings and Usura Farm, he moved so fast that it seemed that it resembled teleportation, something near impossible to achieve when space was flooded with destructive energy. Even though Slaughter carried so much power that it could sever in half the head of an early divine beast, the Soul King did not lose his calm as he released his grip over the broadsword. Without the weapon, the Soul King's hands moved fast enough to appear in front of his head. Before Slaughter could land, the broadsword teleported into his grip, allowing him to use the weapon as a shield.
BOOMs.
A massive explosion echoed once Kane's Slaughter clashed with the broadsword, discharging the quantum laceration charged in it, pushing the Soul King with immense power against one of the walls. The Soul King pucked a mouthful of blood, but the weapon fulfilled its purpose as a shield, protecting the man from serious injury. Kane's eyes were sharp, as the martial skill of the Soul King was nothing but majestic, greater than any of the enemies he had faced before, even the Blood King. In that previous attack, he had used all his power, combining the might of his law mastery and physical might. However, the Soul King still managed to defend himself and sustain very few injuries, whereas anyone else would have at least suffered a severe wound. The might of his enemy only made Kane's killing intent burst as he flashed forward with all his power. The Soul King had regained control over his body, and as he saw Kane flashing toward him, the soul force in his eyes exploded. Soon, the surroundings began to change as his astral wave infused space, generating an oceanic domain around him. Once again, the Soul King managed to use one of the unique abilities of the Kraken lineage, Ocean Domain, with a proficiency that surpassed all the clan's geniuses. Kane could feel the pressure of that domain and knew his speed would be restricted, but he did not slow down and flashed forward, pushing his blood wings and spatial phase to the limit, hacking with Slaughter at full speed. The Soul King showed the same killing intent as Kane, and once again, he waved his broadsword, unleashing all its power.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Explosions of blood energy and oceanic force echoed across the battlefield as Kane, and the Soul King clashed dozens of times every second, the blade and broadsword moving at a shocking speed. The duo did not restrict their movements and occupied the entire route. The warriors from the Solis clan, Zangini's clan, Umbra clan, and Kraken clan could only move away as the duo approached them or else risk becoming collateral damage to their fight. Not even Zamuel, Law, Talon, or Robert could endure being next to the duo as they were unleashing the power of early divine ascension masters.
Quantum laceration. Oceanic dash.
A blast of blood energy reinforced by the power of space clashed with a wave of oceanic energy as the blade and broadsword collided. Kane and the Soul King had already clashed for over 10 minutes, and their bodies were riddled with wounds. The Godslayer human's bones had all sorts of microfractures, while deep lacerations appeared in the battle vessel. Kane could not use Radiance of Life to heal himself, as he needed to focus all the might of his ego wave on Radiance of Strength to match the Soul King's strength. His power was immense, but his energy pool was diminishing at a staggering rate, and he would not be able to carry on for too long. Luckily, he was not the only one in a race against time, as the Soul King also had a limited amount of time before his battle power diminished immensely. The reason was that Nakuo's life force was growing increasingly weak. It wasn't just the attacks that were diminishing Nakuo's life force. The main reason was that to improve Nakuo's strength and achieve a perfect battle vessel, the Soul King sacrificed the old man's life force. Despite their bloody appearance and wounds, Kane and the Soul King were still full of killing intent, and their eyes glowed as they prepared to break the stalemate and land a decisive blow.
BOOMs.
A new explosion echoed as the Soul King waved his broadsword down, clashing with Kane's raising Slaughter. However, as the weapons collided, trying to overcome each other, the Soul King's battle vessel trembled and puked a mouthful of blood as the strength behind his grip diminished significantly. Kane's eyes burst with red light as fortune seemed to favor him, and he put even more strength behind Slaughter as he raised the weapon, pushing the broadsword up with so much strength that it escaped the Soul King's grip. The Soul King's arms were in the air, and he had lost the broadsword. Even if the weapon could return to him, his hands were up, leaving him unprotected. Kane's eyes burst with killing intent as he waved Slaughter down with all his strength, intending to sever the Soul King in half. However, just as Kane's blade was about to touch the battle vessel, a smile appeared on the Soul King's face, and he vanished. Pure shock appeared on Kane's face as he saw the power of the Law of Space envelop the Soul King and teleport him. A feat like that would require the power of law integration, and even then, it would be complicated. However, Cain did not have time to wonder about the might of such ability as he perceived the Soul King appearing above him, right beside the broadsword. His eyes widened with enlightenment as he came to understand that the broadsword could not only teleport to its master, but could also teleport its master toward it. The Soul King's smile only grew as he saw Cain's surprise. He had hidden this ability for the right time, and that was now. With Slaughter on the ground, Cain could not raise the weapon before his broadsword descended.
Ocean divine fall.
The broadsword descended with momentum and pressure that could crumble mountains to dust and level everything for dozens of thousands of meters, and all that power fell on Cain's body. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 562, From Bad to Worse. That attack was the most powerful the Soul King had unleashed so far, so massive that it nearly divided the battlefield in half, pushing everybody away and temporarily halting all the other battles. The warriors from the Solis clan, Kraken clan, Zanginis clan, and Umbra clan did not immediately rejoin the fray after being thrust away by that blast. Instead, they turned to the car of the explosion. There was no clear winner between the two sides, so if the Soul King emerged victorious, it would tip the balance towards the Umbra clan and Kraken clan warriors. Dread appeared on Samuel and Law's faces as they saw the attack had landed point blank on Cain. On the other hand, Talon was able to finally relax, sure that there was no way Cain could have survived that. As the energy dispersed, everybody saw Cain's blood falling to the ground. However, shock set in as they saw the broadsword embedded in his chest, the weapon having shattered his left sternum and leaving a deep cut. The wound on Cain's body was severe, but far from what such an attack should have inflicted. The reason for that was the glowing blood vessels that seemed to burn energy.
Astral blood ability.
The Soul King couldn't help but be shocked to see Cain using such a powerful ability, exponentially enhancing his defenses and turning a deadly attack into only a deep wound. A bad situation could always become worse. In the next second, Cain's eyes burst with red light, using all his strength to move his wounded left arm and grab the Soul King's wrist as he charged all his power into Slaughter. The Soul King felt the immense power in the blade, but his last attack had unleashed too much power, leaving him to endure the backlash. Therefore, he could not rid himself of Cain's grip fast enough.
Dimensional rend.
Cain shouted as Slaughter rose with all his strength, and under everybody's sight, space began to tear apart. Furthermore, all the bloodthirsty seals exploded, infusing their power into the cut in space-time. The Soul King used all his strength to try to move away, but he could not escape before the tear in space burst, unleashing a spatial storm charged with an ocean of blood energy that engulfed him. The spatial storm and blood energy flooded the route, and while its main target was the Soul King, it engulfed everybody from both sides. Samuel and Law were not the exceptions. The Jew had faced very hard battles and were riddled with injuries, but they did not lose focus. They took the chance of the dimensional rend explosion to command the warriors from the Solis clan and Zanginis clan back, taking a defensive formation. At the same time, they waited for the explosive energies to cool down. The Umbra clan and Kraken clan warriors did the same, with Talon and Robert adopting defensive stances along with the rest, trying to assess the condition of the battlefield. Finally, two more figures emerged from the epicenter of the blast. Cain landed among the group of the Solis clan and Zanginis clan, his face pale with a gaping cut on his chest that reached his ribs. The left side of his body was badly wounded, and his lung had collapsed. The Soul King also retreated with his warriors, and his condition was even worse as he had lost his right arm, his right leg mangled beyond recognition, and his entire body riddled with deep and bloody wounds. Clearly, taking the dimensional rend head-on, which the bloodthirsty runes enhanced, had done immense damage to the Soul King's battle vessels. Silence reigned as both groups looked at each other. Cain's wounds were not as severe as the Soul King's, but he still lost a significant part of his battle power. While the Solis clan and Zangini's clan could win the battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory, and many would die, so no side was happy about the current situation. Still, Zamuel, Law, and all the other warriors stared at the Umbra clan and Kraken clan with killing intent and resolution. Some might die, but they were warriors, and death was acceptable, especially if they could rid the empire of such an immense threat. Cain was having a hard time regulating his breathing. He had redirected the power of his alter ego into radiance of life to mend his injuries, but he was still severely wounded. Nevertheless, his eyes were resolute as he stood straight and glanced at the Soul King with pure killing intent. The Soul King failed to regulate his breathing, and the damage he received was simply too much, even for a battle vessel with the vitality and constitution of a peak apotheosis realm master. His already unstable life force was rapidly losing control, worsening his condition. Continuing to clash with Cain meant the chances of victory were next to null. For the Soul King to infiltrate the astral bloodline realm undetected by the true titans of the Deus Behemoth Empire, he had been forced to fuse a piece of his soul in this continent with the Soul Sea of Nakuo. This meant that if the battle vessel were to shatter, the piece of his soul would crumble and fade, breaking his control over the members of the Kraken clan.
Ah, I will admit it, you are a true monster. Had you reached the divine ranks, even if my true body was here, I could do nothing but run away.
The members of the Umbra clan, Solis clan, and Zangini's clan were surprised to hear the Soul King's words, as the assessment of Cain's power was mind-blowing. There was a massive difference between the early and late stages in the Divine Ascension rank, and a true titan like the Soul King was at an even higher stage, yet it seemed Cain could reach the absolute peak of ether upon surpassing the apotheosis realm. That was a level of talent that was truly unheard of. Although those words should have made Cain feel good, his instincts began to scream louder and louder as if the danger was just about to start. It was at this point that the Soul King's soul force burst, and screams emerged from behind him.
Oh,
The members of the Kraken clan began to scream in pain, grabbing their heads due to the agony that seemed to have woken them up from their stasis as dark blue fire bathed their bodies. Cain, Zamuel, and Law's eyes widened as they saw how, amidst the screams, the members of the Kraken clan began to grow larger, and their energy pools grew in intensity and purity. The transformation was not aesthetic at all, and in some cases, you could see bones breaking through the skin due to the fast growth, with their blood vessels growing thicker to the point that they resembled worms moving beneath their skin. Despite their eerie appearance, every one of them was growing more powerful by the second, and their transformation didn't take long to be completed. Robert had always been tall, but after the transformation by the dark blue flames, he was now almost 3 meters tall. His muscles had grown exponentially, as had the density of the bronze exoskeleton covering his flesh. Bone spikes were breaking through his hands, making his fists more dangerous. Cain's calm expression couldn't help but break under such a sight. The power between both groups was nearly even, and he had pushed the balance in favor of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan by delivering that dimensional rend point-blank on the Soul King, but things changed once more. Each member of the Kraken clan had grown at least 50% more powerful. Of course, such an immense upgrade came at a horrible cost, and Cain doubted they would be able to survive for long, but they only needed to endure this fight, and that would be enough.
I did not want to lose such valuable chess pieces, but you left me no other choice. Now your fate is sealed, and you can do nothing to escape my scythe.
The Soul King's voice was eerily cold, and there was no smile on his face or excitement. It was as if everything was already over, and there was no need for unnecessary emotions. Zamuel and Law stared at Cain, unable to hide their distress, as their current situation was truly awful. They had already crossed blades with their enemies and understood their power. Now that they had grown much more powerful and would deploy suicide attacks without regard for their lives, there was no chance of victory. Even if they gave it their all, at most, they could kill a few members of the Kraken clan and Umbra clan, but that was all. Cain was not naive and understood their situation, and just how low their chances of survival were unless something changed. His ego wave burst with power as the Force of Otta shut down all unnecessary thoughts and emotions, allowing his mind to work faster than ever, trying to find a way out of this precarious situation. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 563, From Worse to Horrible. Suddenly, Kane's eyes grew sharp, and his ego wave burst with power. At the same time, Samuel and Law's eyes widened in shock as they glanced at Kane, hearing his voice in their minds and understanding his plan. It was extremely dangerous and would put all of them in great danger, but the only other way was death, so in the end, the duo softly nodded. The Soul King was a seasoned warrior, and there was no way he could not notice the silent exchange between Kane and the other two, but his face remained immutable, as there was nothing they could do to change what was about to happen. Just as the Soul King was about to signal for the enhanced warriors of the Kraken clan and those of the Umbra clan to attack, Kane waved his hand and released the 9 space spheres, generating the Blood Nexus domain. The Soul King saw the Blood domain encompassing them all, but while it was very powerful against weak enemies, it could do little against the Umbra clan and Kraken clan warriors. Wait. Just as that thought crossed the Soul King's mind, he noticed how the space spheres began to shine, releasing astonishing amounts of energy. After using the Blood Nexus domain as a shield against the Shadow Avatar attack, the space spheres were damaged, but the reason for the shine was not that. Kane had been charging the spheres with the energy coming from the Gluttony module, to the point they were about to explode, which was precisely what he was after.
The
The 9 space spheres and the entire Blood Nexus domain exploded, unleashing a chaotic ocean of blood energy and spatial turbulence that flooded the area, covering both sides. The Soul King raised his broadsword, and Robert immediately appeared in front of him to protect him. The explosion affected his senses, but did little damage as the blast spread in all directions, diminishing its destructive powers. What is he trying to do? The Soul King frowned as he did not understand what Kane was trying to achieve with such a distraction, and then he felt a powerful force coming toward them. His perception detected a beam of solar energy and blood energy flashing toward them with immense power. Immediately, Talon and the members of the Umbra clan moved to the left, while the Soul King and those of the Kraken clan went to the right, avoiding that ferocious energy strike. Just as the energy strike moved through both clans, it shattered, revealing Kane's presence.
What?
The Soul King couldn't help but shout as he saw Kane passing through their blockade and moving to the Grey Road. At the same time, all the Solis and Zanginis clans warriors moved in the opposite direction, returning to the astral bloodline chamber. Immediately, a flash of enlightenment appeared in the Soul King's eyes as he figured out Kane's plan. Kane used the distraction of the blast to escape and reach the Grey Road before looking for help, while the members of the Solis clan and Zanginis clan would return to the astral bloodline chamber, where they would be safe as if it was impossible to fight inside it. Of course, it would have been great if everybody could escape, but that was impossible. Kane was the fastest and had the highest chance of getting help.
Soul King.
Talon couldn't help but shout with fear and distress in his eyes. If Kane were to escape and inform other clans of what was happening, it would be the end of the Umbra clan. There was no way the Deus Behemoth Empire would turn a blind eye to a clan working with one of the 10 Dark Kings of the organization. As for the Soul King's initial offering to the Solis clan and Zanginis clan about letting them go if they let him kill Kane, that was obviously a lie.
Damn it.
The Soul Foss in the Soul King's eyes trembled as his emotions grew out of control again due to the mental distress. But through willpower, he regained control, and decisiveness appeared on his face.
You, Robert, and I will go after Kane. The rest of the Umbra clan and Kraken clan will follow the Solis clan and Zanginis clan toward the astral bloodline chamber and make sure they do not escape.
The Soul King had not even finished speaking as the Kraken clan and Umbra clan members were already in motion. Kane was moving at full speed toward the exit of the route and back to the Grey Road. Hiding in the beam of energy had scorched his skin, but he ignored the pain as he advanced faster and faster. His eyes narrowed as he noticed 3 presences following him, only for one to suddenly vanish. The Soul King, Robert, and Talon. Good, if the trio is after me. The others will be able to reach the astral bloodline chamber alive. Facing the trio on his own was not something Kane could do in his current condition. Even at his peak, Facing the enhanced Robert would have been hard, and his chances of victory would have been zero if the Soul King and Talon joined the battle. Although Kane's eyes were focused ahead of him, the pseudo-multidimensional scan force field showed him the trio's presence, including how Talon hid in Robert's shadows. Kane and the others had already been close to the Grey Road when the Umbra clan ambushed them, so it didn't take long to exit the route and reach the massive road. Immediately, his eyes wandered around, trying to find some sign of other Deus behemoths, but there was no one. Damn it. Although Kane knew it could not be so easy, he still cursed at his luck. Without wasting even a second, he began to move forward, pushing ahead, trying to find someone. Not far from Kane, the Soul King was on top of Robert's giant body, slowly but surely diminishing the distance between them. As for Talon, he moved hidden in the shadows, making sure no one could detect his presence. Kane was moving as fast as he could, but his wounds were too severe to activate Usura form, so he could only rely on his blood wings and spatial phase to move forward. However, his speed was marginally slower than the enhanced member of the Kraken clan, so it was just a matter of time before they caught up. Just as the distance between Kane and Robert was reduced to less than 200 meters, luck finally smiled on him as he saw a group emerging from one of the roads. They were 5 Deus behemoths, and their fur and fox-like ears meant they were members of the Fenrir clan. The fact that there were only 5 members of the Fenrir clan did not necessarily mean that the others were dead. Dividing the group into 2 was a good strategy when navigating the diverse routes, but none of that mattered. The only thing Kane cared about right now was the help this group could provide. They didn't need to fight. It would be good enough if they could at least help him regain his breath and hear his words. The members of the Fenrir clan were shocked to see Kane being chased by a wounded member of the Kraken clan, missing an arm, along with Robert, whose body was severely disfigured. Roderick, the strongest member of the new generation of the Fenrir clan, was not among this group, but that did not mean they lacked a leader. A young woman with a thin sword on her back saw Kane approaching, and she was about to act, trying to gain time to understand what was happening. However, before the woman could say a word, one of the members of the Fenrir clan moved forward and waved his massive sword, unleashing a powerful beam of sword force that blasted toward Kane. Kane's eyes widened, and he immediately took out Slaughter, using a quantum laceration to destroy the beam of sword force coming at him. That attack couldn't threaten him, even in his weakened state, but that wasn't the problem. Even if it was weak, the beam of sword force forced Kane to slow down, allowing Robert to reach the 100-meter mark. The man from the Kraken clan waved his massive hammer toward Kane, unleashing a blast of concentrated oceanic pressure that struck Kane and sent him flying away while puking blood. Kane clenched his teeth as he regained control, using the attack to propel his body forward. A flash of rage and killing intent appeared in his eyes, but he controlled those emotions as he moved forward. Robert's attack had pushed him thousands of meters forward, and now the trio stood between him and the Fenrir clan, so there was no way to return. And even if there were, Kane would not do it as he did not trust them. The only choice was to push forward. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 564, The Mind Cosmos Chamber. Although the oceanic hammer attack had harmed Kane, it also increased the distance between him and the trio, granting him more time to find others. However, his chances were not great, and he was running out of time. Kane clenched his teeth and ignored the pain he felt as he moved forward at full speed. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as he detected a fluctuation in the energy in one of the routes, indicating a path toward one of the chambers. While this would have been good news before, it was pointless now as it could very well be empty, leading him to a dead end. However, just as Kane was about to move past it, it happened. Boy, this way. Kane's eyes widened as he heard that voice in his mind. There was no life form near him other than the trio, and the astral bloodline realm limited the range of one's ego wave, so no one should be able to communicate telepathically with him, yet it happened. There were 2 paths for Kane, moving forward, hoping to find another of the clans and request their help, or trusting that this mysterious entity could help him. A flash of determination appeared in Cain's eyes as he made a sharp turn to the left and entered the root. The Soul King frowned as he saw this, knowing that entering one of the roots would eventually lead to either a chamber or a dead end, which made no difference for Cain since he would be trapped with them. Although the Soul King felt something was wrong, he did not hesitate before moving with Robert in that direction and commanding Talon to follow them. In the end, the trio also entered the root and pushed their speed to the limit as they wanted to catch Cain and kill him sooner rather than later to avoid other surprises. Cain moved at full speed, and whenever he saw a crossroad, the voice in his head would tell him the right path. He already knew it thanks to the power of the flow, but the fact that the voice could direct him made his confidence in it grow. He pushed faster and faster, but Robert was even quicker, and the distance between the two was once again reduced to a dangerous level. Whatever the destination the voice was directing him to, it seemed the Soul King would catch him first. Damn it. Cain shouted in his mind, but there was no hesitation in his eyes as he triggered third gear, improving his heartbeat and the speed at which his blood wings waved, exponentially enhancing his speed. The Soul King saw how Cain's speed exponentially increased and showed pure rage as he struck Robert's head, improving the man's energy pool's output and allowing him to move faster at the cost of his life force. Clearly, the Soul King did not care what would happen to Robert as long as they could catch Cain. Cain was bleeding from every orifice on his face as the blood vessels ruptured due to the pressure of third gear, but he carried on until he saw a massive chamber ahead, and what he saw in the center was a twister of sky blue energy.
The Mind Cosmos Chamber.
The name of this chamber was the Mind Cosmos Chamber, and it was just as massive as the Astral Bloodline Chamber. As for the cyclone in the car, it was the Mind Destroyer Cyclone, a unique phenomenon that could help people train their ego wave and mental defenses. The Mind Cosmos Chamber was actually one of the chambers Cain wanted to explore the most. Yet right now, it was the worst, as the closer he got to the Mind Destroyer Cyclone, the stronger the impact on his mind, meaning he could not advance, and the path back was blocked by the Soul King, Robert, and Talon. The voice in his mind had guided him to a dead end, and right now there was nothing he could do, but he once again heard it. If you want to survive, jump into the cyclone. Cain's eyes widened as he heard those words. The closer you got to the Mind Destroyer Cyclone, the more pressure it would exert on your willpower. Being less than 1,000 meters was the closest you could be without damaging your ego eternal matrix, and getting into the cyclone was akin to suicide, yet the voice wanted him to do exactly that.
Face your doom.
As Cain contemplated the words of the mysterious entity, he heard the voice of the Soul King and saw him flashing with Robert, both charging all their energy and ready to kill. As for Talon, the man was moving under the shadow of the enhanced Kraken clan warrior, and his energy was also ready to explode. Ahead was a path with a near 99% chance of death, but that could be hiding a mysterious secret, while behind him was a path with certain death. Since that was the case, it was not hard to figure out Cain's next move. Cain pushed his body forward at full speed, using everything he had as he dived toward the center of the Mind Cosmos Chamber. It did not take him long to reach 1,000 meters away from the massive cyclone, and his mind was already under so much pressure that he was about to black out. Despite the pain and feeling like someone was ripping his brain in two, Cain just clenched his teeth and pushed forward. It was at the 500-meter mark that he blacked out, but his body still carried a massive impulse, pushing him into the Mind Destroyer Cyclone. The Soul King's eyes widened as he saw Cain diving into the Mind Destroyer Cyclone, as that was essentially suicide. Even if he passed out, the cyclone's power would still exert an inhumane pressure over his ego eternal matrix until this one crumbled into nothing. Once that happened, Cain's mind, memory, and ego would cease to exist. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 565, Primordial Race, I. There was shock, confusion, and disbelief in the Soul King's eyes as he could not understand what he just saw. Cain Lorifa was by far the greatest talent of Ether, and even in a death end, this one should have chosen to go down fighting, and it did not make sense he would simply kill himself. Yet, that was exactly what happened. Although everything told the Soul King that Cain would die in a matter of seconds, his eyes remained sharp since the boy seemed to be incapable of staying dead. He was ready to command Robert to push into the cyclone and blow himself to pieces, hoping that the explosion would reach the young man. However, as soon as Cain entered the Mind Destroyer cyclone, it went berserk, and the energy within it exploded, causing its size to grow and encompass the entire chamber.
Pull back.
The Soul King shouted as he observed the strange behavior of the Mind Destroyer cyclone, moving back with Robert and Talon to avoid having their minds shattered by the power of the phenomenon. The trio was fast enough to move several thousand meters back into the route, avoiding the power of the Mind Destroyer cyclone. The next second, Talon emerged from the shadow of Robert and glanced at the Soul King, waiting for instructions. Although the leader of the Umbra clan's younger generation was surprised by the reaction of the Mind Destroyer cyclone, there was no doubt in his mind that Cain was dead, as it was impossible to survive the power of that phenomenon. The Soul King's knowledge led him to the same conclusion as Talon, and he knew that Cain should have perished, but he couldn't help but clench his teeth as he wanted to personally ensure that the young man had perished. In the end, the Soul King took a deep breath as focus returned to his eyes, and he suppressed the chaotic emotions.
Let's go. We still have to ensure the demise of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan members.
Talon showed a sharp expression as he nodded. No one who knew about the relationship between the Umbra clan and the Soul King could survive. After one final glance at the Mind Destroyer cyclone pushing against the edge of the chamber, the Soul King, Talon, and Robert made their way back to the Grey Road. Their plan was simple: return to the Astral Bloodline Chamber and ensure every Solis clan and Zangini's clan member's death. Cain's eyes were closed, and an expression of pain was on his face before he suddenly woke up. His eyes reflected the mental pain, but luckily it was subsiding, and he was slowly regaining his focus. It took Cain nearly a minute before his mind finally recovered from the pain, and he immediately assessed the state of his body. He was still badly wounded, but his vitality and radiance of life had stabilized his condition. Only after making sure his body was fine did Cain observe the surroundings. Immediately, he frowned as there was nothing but darkness, and it seemed he was floating in an empty void. The last thing I remember was flashing into the Mind Destroyer cyclone, blacking out, and waking up here. Since I did not die, I assume this was where the mysterious entity wanted me to arrive, but what is this place?
Good, you have woken up.
Just as Cain was wondering what was happening, he heard a voice coming from the darkness. It was ancient, firm yet peaceful, and full of majesty not even the emperor of the Deus Behemoth Empire could compare. Just the voice was impressive, but the next second, a sense of absolute shock assaulted Cain's mind and heart. Two eyes materialized in the darkness, and they were so massive that he could not see them whole, much less the rest of the face of this entity. The eyes were full of sky-blue lightning, and the power in them made Cain feel he was in the presence of the most majestic force he had ever seen in his entire life. Not even the beam of light that sundered the dark army in the dream world could compare with those eyes. Luckily for Cain, as a master of Ada, his emotions were soon under control, and he overcame the shock of seeing such a creature. The entity's eyes narrowed as he saw the speed at which Cain was able to overcome the shock, and a light full of respect appeared in them.
Impressive, you can endure gazing into my will despite being a simple physical realm life form. However, your nature as a reincarnator might have something to do with it. Still, it is an impressive feat, so well done, boy.
Cain had just overcome the shock of seeing those imposing eyes, only to be stunned again by the fact that the creature seemed to know about his identity as a reincarnator. What is happening, Apex? No one should be able to deduce Cain's nature as a reincarnator, at least not without inspecting his soul. However, Apex should be able to take care of any foreign entity that could try to intercept his soul sea. I do not know what is happening or who this entity is, but I can assure you no one has come into contact with your soul sea. Apex might not help Cain with threats from the outside world like the Soul King, but he had always paid extreme attention to the young man's soul sea and ensured nothing disturbed it. Cain frowned as he heard Apex's words. If the entity had not interacted with his soul sea, how could it know one of his greatest secrets? Luckily for Cain, the entity noticed the confusion in his eyes and began to speak.
You have been using my liver to purify your astral wave. the air in my lungs to refine your essence wave, the acids of my stomach to enhance your flesh and blood, and the bloodline radiation of my heart to improve your body refinement art. During those times, I was able to interact with your body and feel your primordial essence.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 566, Primordial Race, I. The voice was serene, as if those words were not impactful at all, but the shock in Kane's eyes was simply overwhelming. It didn't take him long to understand that this creature's liver, lungs, stomach, and heart were the pool of purity, the breath of cosmic chamber, the void fire cauldron, and the astral bloodline chamber. Once you understand it, it all makes sense, as there was indeed a resemblance between the 6 chambers and those vital organs. It was just that the idea was simply too ludicrous since, if an entity were to have organs so massive, then its size would not be less than a continent.
It seems that you have many questions. Go ahead and make them freely, and I will answer all I can.
The entity's eyes contained a sense of fondness that made Kane confused, but he would not lose this chance as questions were aplenty in his mind. Kane took a moment and used all his power to calm his mind and heart as he focused again on those majestic eyes. There were many questions in his mind, but one triumphed above the others as it was related to his own secrets.
What is the primordial essence?
This entity used the primordial essence to figure out his identity as a reincarnator, and Kane wanted to know more about it so he could do a better job hiding it in the future. The entity kept his word and immediately answered Kane's question.
Primordial essence is the most fundamental particle of your soul, the purest form of the essence of your existence. Your body, energy frequency, willpower, ego, and even a great part of your soul might change under certain circumstances, such as reincarnation. Yet the one constant that will always persist is your primordial essence. If your primordial essence were to change, then you would have ceased to exist, since the new individual that would rise from that new primordial essence would be a different you.
Kane's eyes narrowed as a sense of enlightenment appeared in them. So this primordial essence is the fundamental particle that makes Kane Lorifa. If that particle changes, there is no longer a Kane Lorifa. It must be in the deepest part of my soul sea and form the core of it. After understanding that, Kane could relax a little more and took a deep breath, allowing all the shock to go through him and regain focus again. He then clasped his hands and performed a slight bow.
I am sorry for my rudeness. Before we carry on, could I learn your name?
This entity seemed fond of him, but Kane was not naive and did not trust those he had never met before, so the best path was to maintain a formal and respectful approach. The shock from before had been too much, but now that he had regained his calmness, he could take a more diplomatic and wise approach. Upon seeing Kane's respectful stance, the eyes did not show much, and they answered with the same amicable behavior.
Don't worry too much about it. About my name, that is hard as I honestly do not fully remember it. I have lost a significant portion of my memories to the point I don't even know how I arrived in this place or the reason for my current condition. You can call me Anarch, as that sounds familiar for some reason and might be my name.
Kane's eyes narrowed as he heard those words. It seemed that this mysterious being had some amnesia. Although it could be a lie, there was no point for an entity like this to lie to him, but that did not mean Kane would lower his guard.
Lord Anarch, could you tell me why you brought me here?
Once again, Kane focused on the important. The voice he heard in his mind that brought him to the Mind Cosmos chamber and told him to jump into the Mind Destroyer Cyclone was none other than Anarch, but he did not know why this being came to his help. Anarch's gargantuan eyes focused on Kane for a few seconds before speaking.
As you might guess by the state of my organs, my body is dead and fossilized. I am currently a corpse, and we are right now in what is a unique dimension born out of my broken soul sea. Only in this place can I express a little of my power and protect you from those enemies.
Anarch paused at this point, allowing Kane to understand his condition and why, other than guiding him into this dimension, he did nothing else to help him face the Soul King. Kane softly nodded and waited for the entity to carry on.
As for the reason I wanted to protect you, it is simple. I just wanted to help a member of my race.
Cain's eyes widened as he heard those words and understood their meaning. He remained in silence for a moment before finally answering.
I am a human.
There was no way he could deceive this entity, whose perception could reach the deepest part of his soul, so he tried to clarify things. Anok's eyes showed only fondness before his voice once again echoed.
In this life, you might have been born part of the human race, but I detect in your primordial essence the soul aura of my kind. That means that you were once part of my race in one life or another.
Cain's eyes glowed with enlightenment as everything became clear to him. Anok entity helped him survive because he believed Cain was once part of the same race. He immediately believed Anok was mistaken. After all, Cain had memories of his past life in which he was also a human. It was true he developed unique powers no one else had, but that did not make him a member of another race. Don't be so quick to discard the idea, brat. You have memories of a past life, not all of them. Who is to say you were not once a member of this entity's race? Besides, it would be wise to play along even if that is not the case. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 567, Primordial Race, EI. Apex's voice echoed inside Cain's mind, and a profound light appeared in his eyes as he considered those words. He remembered part of his life, but it was true that there might be other reincarnations he might not remember. Besides, Apex was right, and playing along with Anok would be the right choice. Anok did not rush Cain and waited for him to take his time and process all the information.
I have no recollection of being part of a different race, but I cannot negate your words.
Cain was wise with his words, not trying to feign that he knew what Anok was talking about, but he did not refuse the idea. Anok's eyes remained the same this entire time, as the aura of Cain's primordial essence was all he needed.
Could you tell me more about your race?
A sense of delight and excitement appeared in Anok's eyes as he heard that question, and it seemed it was something he was eager to speak about.
Our race was born at the dawn of the universe. Stardust made our flesh, and nebulas with more heat than a sun formed our veins. We have a physical might that nothing in the universe can match, and the key behind this is the ability of our body, energy, and soul to act as a single force. Through this synergy, we can unleash physical might that could sunder supernovas, and that is just our physical might. Our spirit can commune with the cosmos to the point that there is no difference between man and the world, allowing us to harness the might of the universe in our fists and a myriad of skills that no martial art could match. We are the race that stands at the zenith of all life and regulates the order of all things. We are the primordial race.
A sense of awe and dread appeared in Cain's heart as he heard those words. The way Anok described the primordial race was like divine-like beings that stood at the apex of all things and traversed the stars with power nothing could match. Being part of such a race was truly mind-blowing, but Cain did not lose himself in dreams. Even if he was once an entity of such might, that was no longer the case, and he was now a member of the Godslayer humankind. Or at least that was what he thought.
There is a second reason I brought you here, to help you regain your racial heritage. I will aid you in becoming once again part of our race. You will regain your honor as a member of the primordial race.
Cain's eyes widened as a sense of utter excitement emerged from his heart upon hearing those words. According to Anok's description, the primordial race was, by definition, an ultimate existence with bodies capable of crushing worlds and whose power seemed to know no boundaries. Becoming one of them would grant him a power high enough to break through his current predicament, but Cain was able to keep a cool head.
How is that possible?
No matter what kind of life form Cain was in the past, right now, he was 100% human, and that was not something that would change even if he were to awaken memories of previous reincarnations. After all, during the dream where he generated his alter ego, he was able to perform incredible feats, but none of them carried on to his current life. Even now, when Cain attained guidance of abilities of his previous life, such as Usura Form, the Eye of Gluttony, or the Flow, he was forced to train them from scratch, and those were just techniques. Anok described a much more complex and thorough process since it would mean changing his foundation. Anok could figure out all the thoughts crossing Cain's mind, but his eyes were full of certainty. making it clear he did not speak those words lightly.
The most important part of a life form is their primordial essence, and yours contains the aura of our kind. Using that as the basis, you can undertake the primordial path through the inheritance of spirit and the inheritance of flesh, awakening your racial heritage.
Cain's eyes narrowed as he heard those words. It seemed that there were inheritances that could help someone whose primordial essence once carried the mark of the primordial race to regain their power. However, there was something that bothered him.
Will that have a problem with my paths of power? Will I have to cultivate from scratch?
Although the primordial path was undoubtedly amazing and seemed to contain immense power, getting rid of his astral rebirth path of power and essence evolution path of power was not something Cain was willing to do in a place full of dangers where a dark king awaited him. Luckily for Cain, that was not the case, and Anak immediately dissipated his worries.
There is no need for that. The primordial path is not a path of power that will train your sacred organs, but a change in your nature and race. Actually, they can complement each other, so you should still improve your rebirth heart and evolution core to the best of your capabilities.
Cain smiled with thrill as he heard that and softly nodded. Not wanting to interrupt Anak again, he silently nodded and continued listening.
The inheritance of spirit will focus on your ability to commune with the world, harnessing its power, as well as understanding its flaws, improving your strength and comprehension of the cosmic forces. As for the inheritance of flesh, that will focus on the state of your body, energy, and soul, and their ability to achieve synergy. I can impart the inheritance of spirit directly into your soul, and you can use it to start your training in the primordial path, but the inheritance of flesh is different. For that, you need a true primordial to imbue your body, energy, and soul with theirs, awakening the dormant powers. I cannot grant you the inheritance of flesh since I am currently just a soul, and to impart it, I need to attain rebirth and regain my body.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 568, Obtaining the Inheritance of Spirit.
I cannot grant you the inheritance of flesh since I am currently just a soul, and to impart it, I need to attain rebirth and regain my body.
A flash of enlightenment appeared in Cain's eyes as he heard that part. Anak was ready to impart the inheritance of spirit and did not ask anything in return, but to obtain the inheritance of flesh, he would need to help this one regain his body. Instead of feeling angry, a smile appeared on Cain's face. A part of him always distrusted those who did something for selfless intent, but when they asked for something in return, everything became much easier. That request did not diminish Cain's view of the primordial at all, and he was still extremely thankful. After all, Anak helped him survive the Soul King's chase and was now going to impart him the inheritance of spirit for free.
I promise on my family name that I will assist you to the best of my capabilities to attain your rebirth.
Cain did not hesitate as he clasped his hands and uttered those words in a solemn tone full of determination. Anak's eyes glowed with a sense of thrill and fondness much greater than before, and it was clear he was highly pleased by the young man's attitude.
Ha ha ha, good, good. We primordials must always help each other. I can impart the inheritance of spirit immediately and use my power to help you attain the first level. I am sure you will be more than powerful enough to face those who chase after you then.
Anak's eyes glowed with that powerful sky-blue lightning, and Cain was indeed eager to obtain that power, but he did not lose focus.
How long will it take me to attain the first level?
Despite all the shock and excitement, Cain had not forgotten that the members of the Zanginis clan and Soli's clan were currently besieged inside the astral bloodline chambers. The group was safe there, but could not remain inside indefinitely, as the radiation would begin to harm their bodies. At most, they would have 2 months before their bodies began to shut down.
It is hard to say. It is impossible to say exactly, but the stronger you were in your previous life as a primordial, the easier it would be for you to master the inheritance of spirit. If you are talented, it would take a few years to a decade. Don't worry about being expelled. I can use my power to keep you in this dimension. As for your comrades, I am sorry, but just like I was unable to help you, I can do nothing for them, as my powers are limited to this place.
Anak showed some sympathy, but that was it. Clearly, he was not distressed by the state of a few Deus behemoths he knew nothing about. Cain did not find Anok's behavior strange. After all, his view of the world was even colder and more pragmatic than the primordial. However, Zamuel Law and all the Solis clan and Zangini's clan members stood by his side in the fight against the Soul King. They helped him escape the blockade and led him to safety, so leaving them to their fate was not something he would do. That was the only thing that stopped him from fully immersing himself in the inheritance of spirit and striving to become a primordial. As for his racial identity as a human, that was never a worry. After becoming a master of Oda, Cain's racial prejudice against the dark races vanished, and so did his sense of racial identity. He did not feel compelled to the human race. Of course, that did not mean he would cast aside the Godslayer humankind empire after all his friends, master, and lover were part of it.
How long would it take just to impart the inheritance of spirit? It will be fairly fast, around a day. But the start of the primordial path is incredibly complicated, and if you try to do it alone, it might take you a century, so I advise against it. It was not easy to bring you into this dimension, and you will not be able to return once you leave.
Anok made it clear what would happen if Cain left before reaching the first level, but that was as far as he went. If the young man wanted to leave, it would be his choice, and he would not interfere with it. Cain remained silent for a minute as he considered things until a flash of determination appeared in his eyes.
Please hand me the inheritance of spirit and help me cultivate. I will leave in 2 months, regardless of my state.
A sense of respect appeared in Anok's eyes. Although 2 months were too little to make any significant advance in the primordial path, Anok respected Cain's determination to help his friends at the cost of his own power. Of course, Cain also had the option to leave immediately after obtaining the inheritance of spirit, but there was a limit to how much a master of Oda was willing to sacrifice for others.
As you wish, relax your mind as I will transfer the inheritance of spirit directly into your soul. The process will be painful due to the massive amount of information, but you should be able to endure it without a problem, thanks to your willpower.
Cain did as Anok told him and lowered his mental defenses, allowing the primordial to interact with his soul. Of course, he did not blindly trust the primordial, as they had just met, but he was confident he would be fine as Apex would guard his soul sea. The gargantuan eyes of Anok burst with sky-blue lightning, and its power began to surge into Cain's mind, reaching all the way into the soul sea. Deep into the soul sea, the golden humanoid guardian of the world-size gate saw the sky-blue lightning flooding into Cain's soul sea, and his eyes narrowed. However, Apex soon relaxed as he saw that the Foss carried only knowledge and insights, but no ego or other form of will. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 569, Earth Attunement in just 2 days. Cain frowned as he felt 100 voices echoing simultaneously in his mind, all carrying deep and profound knowledge. Luckily, his willpower was already at the peak of the apotheosis realm, so he was able to endure without a problem. Just like Anok said, imparting the inheritance of spirit took a day. Once Anok stopped sending the stream of sky-blue lightning into Cain's mind, he was able to relax. It did not take long for Cain's relaxed expression to turn into shock and awe as he went through all the knowledge in his mind.
Incredible.
That was the only way Cain could describe the primordial path. The first level was more complicated and had dozens, or even hundreds, of times more information than the entire Void Crimson cultivation techniques. No wonder he said even with talent, it would take me several years to just reach the first step of the first level. As Cain comprehended just how complicated the primordial path was, he couldn't help but sigh as he understood that attaining the first level would be impossible in just 2 months. Still, there was no hesitation on his face, as that was the right path. After exiting this place, it might take him a long time to attain the first level of the primordial path, but he could not leave Zamuel and the others to die after they put their trust in him. Anok saw the determination and focus in Cain's eyes and softly nodded before continuing.
As you already know, the foundation stage of the primordial path is elemental harmony. You must establish a deep, intrinsic harmony between your body and the basic elemental forces of nature, which are earth, water, fire, and air. Once you can harmonize with these elements, you will be able to perceive the natural energy and harness it into your body. This will enhance your physical strength, agility, stamina, reflexes, perception, and durability, and upon higher levels, allow you to display the power of the elemental laws through your flesh and blood.
If anyone in Ether were to hear that last part, they would be shocked, as the laws and body refinement were by themselves different paths, one developing powerful spells and the other an immensely powerful body. However, that was one of the keys behind the primordial race's tremendous power, as they were able to generate synergy between different forces and deploy a power higher than the sum of its parts. Cain had already understood the principles behind Anok's words, so he silently nodded and allowed the primordial to continue.
To train the foundation stage, you would normally need to visit different embodiments where the elemental laws have reached an extreme and then carefully adapt to them. Luckily, I can use my power to generate those environments in this place and regulate them for your training.
Anok's eyes began to glow, and soon, a massive plain manifested beneath Cain's feet. It was a rocky terrain with no sense of vegetation or any other forms of life.
You were born on the earth and have lived most of your life on its surface, so it will be the first element we will approach. Follow the elemental harmony's principles and erase the distinction between earth and your body, harnessing its power through your flesh and blood.
Cain nodded, understanding what he needed to do. He descended into the arid terrain and adopted a meditative stance as he focused on the earth beneath him, following the principles of the primordial path. Silence reigned as Anok focused on Cain, its gargantuan eyes full of excitement and with a flash of nervousness. He had indeed felt the soul aura of a primordial in Cain, but there was a chance he could have been mistaken. Luckily, this training would help him learn the truth. If Cain managed to train the inheritance of spirit, he would indeed have the primordial essence of a member of the primordial race. Hours passed without any change, but Anok did not grow nervous. After all, even for a highly talented individual, it would take weeks before the first sign of elemental harmony was shown. That's why the primordial's eyes widened with pure shock when he felt how Cain's presence slowly began to fade and merge with the earth beneath him. That proved that Sion had the soul aura of a member of the primordial race, but that was not the important part. The speed at which Cain was advancing was simply too fast. Maybe it's just a flux. Yeah, that must be it. After all, no one can be so talented. Anok had no animosity against Cain. It was just that the speed of this one did not make sense, and he could not understand it. Unfortunately, his thoughts proved wrong as before the second day ended, the essence of the earth began to infuse into Cain's body. Visible changes occurred as Cain's skin became tougher, and the change rapidly spread across his body.
Earth attunement in just 2 days. Amazing.
Even though Cain had just achieved the most basic state of earth attunement, the fact that it took him only 2 days was beyond shocking for the primordial. Luckily, Cain was too immersed in his training and had shut down his sense of hearing, so he did not hear the exclamation of Anok and carried on training. As the days passed, the earth essence flooded deeper and deeper into Cain's body, going through every part of him, until finally, on the 10th day, there was no difference between him and the ground beneath his feet. It was at this point that Cain opened his eyes. The visual changes on his skin faded, but he could feel the ruggedness of it. But that was the least important thing, as he felt as if he had become one with the earth and could perceive everything that came in contact with it. Amazing. The feeling of being one with the earth was truly wondrous, but also feeble, as if it would break the moment he lost his concentration. Cain took a moment to relax as the connection with the earth broke, but he did not worry, as he could regain that harmony by simply focusing. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 570, less than 40 days. Other than the thrill, there was also confusion in Cain's eyes as he turned to Anok. Although there was no description of the time needed for each level, he knew he had just completed a fifth of the steps required to enter the foundation stage of the primordial path. At this speed, he would finish before 2 months, which was way faster than the minimum 2 years Anak had declared. The primordial could see the confusion in Cain's eyes, but in the end, could only sigh.
I am also stunned. I don't understand how you can be so talented, and it honestly doesn't make any sense, but it is a good thing, so I guess there is no need to overthink it.
Although Cain's nature was not as easygoing as Anok's, there was no need to look for the cause right now, especially since he had a deadline.
Okay, since you have completed the Earth attunement, it is time to start with the water synchronization.
After Anak uttered those words, the earth beneath Cain's feet vanished, replaced by a massive ocean that extended as far as the eye could see. Cain did not hesitate before diving deep into the body of water, and once he was hundreds of meters deep, he let go of control of his body, allowing the currents to take the reins and guide him. Slowly, his heartbeat and breath began to synchronize with the currents, adapting to the ocean's calm and raging states. Just like with the earth element, the separation between Cain's body and the water faded before the first day ended, and by the second day, he was already starting to display the effects of water synchronization, and the water essence began to flood into his body. Soon, Cain's veins began to flow like water, developing a sense of fluidity and adaptability beyond the limits of a human body. Minutes before the 9th day ended, Cain's body had become one with the massive oceanic body, and he opened his eyes. Anok's eyes glowed as the body of water faded, and he gazed at the young man with utter amazement. Clearly, Cain's monstrous divine talent was not limited to the earth element, and he did not doubt the same would happen with fire and air.
Let's move to the next one.
Along with those words, a massive sphere of flames appeared before Cain. Its size was gargantuan, and the intensity of the fire was so high that just being near it made his skin burn. Yet, there was only serenity in his eyes as he calmly moved forward. The closer he got to the massive sphere of flames, the more damage Cain took. It didn't take long for his skin to chaw and his hair to set ablaze, but even as he resembled a charred corpse, he continued moving forward. Soon, he reached the sphere of flames and without hesitation stepped inside. Being near the fire had scorched Cain's skin, so being inside the fire should have set his insides ablaze, but that didn't happen. The moment Cain stepped into the ball of fire, the division between him and the flames faded, and he became one with it. It didn't take long for the fire to not only cease harming Cain's body, but soon its essence began to flood his insides. Under the amazed eyes of Anak, Cain's internal energy and vitality were invigorated, and his skin began to heal as his vitality was enhanced. Cain reached the core of the fire and stood inside for 11 days before finally opening his eyes again. He moved his hands to the sides, and the massive sphere of fire split in half.
11 days to achieve fire integration. The word monster is too soft for someone like you, boy.
Anok's words were full of admiration and awe as he once again was shocked by the simply overwhelming and impossibly high talent that Cain displayed. Cain smiled, but did not say anything as he was too engrossed in the state of his body. All the wounds he suffered from the battle against the Soul King were now gone, and he was in peak condition. Actually, he was even stronger than before, not just in his life foundation, but in the intensity and power of his energy pools and paths of power, which had significantly benefited from this experience.
Now, let's start with the last one of the elemental infusions.
Anak had just spoken when a tornado capable of leveling a continent of the old world manifested in the dimension. Its power was so immense that Cain felt the pressure of it trying to grab his body and make him revolve at hundreds of thousands of kilometers per hour. Instead of resisting, Cain allowed the current to grab hold of his body, and he began to revolve around the massive tornado so fast that even Apotheosis Realm masters would have a hard time keeping up with him. The centrifugal force of the tornado generated overwhelming pressure on Cain's vital organs, and had it not been for his condition improved by the fire integration, he would have had a hard time remaining conscious. Luckily for Cain, it only took a few hours for him to start to commune with the elemental force of the wind, and instead of being tossed around like a bag of paper, he began to move according to the gales as if he were part of them. By the middle of the second day, Cain could not only mimic the movements of the wind, but its essence flooded into his body. There were no visible changes on the outside, but his agility and awareness improved exponentially. At the start of the 9th day, the wind essence had already permeated every corner of Cain's body, and as he opened his eyes. He was able to stand at the highest point of the tornado, ignoring the power of the raging gales. When Anak saw Kane's state, his eyes glowed and the tornado vanished.
Just 9 days for air assimilation. You took less than 40 days to finish the elemental infusion with all 4 elements. That should take years, even for the most talented primordial. Boy, you are a monster.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 571, Elemental Resonance. Anak could not hide the thrill and excitement in his gargantuan eyes. The higher Kane's talent was, the better his chances of growing strong enough to help Anak attain rebirth and obtain a physical body again. Initially, the primordial thought it would take thousands of years, or maybe even more before Kane could help him, since the rebirth of an entity of his level was not a simple feat, but it might come sooner than he expected. Kane was just as shocked by his talent as Anak, and trying to explain it was not possible, as all those impressive feats were not something he did consciously. He just allowed his instincts to carry on, and it was as if something deep in his soul took over and transformed the incredibly complicated principles of the primordial path into something as simple as basic arithmetic. Despite being incredibly happy with it, Kane wouldn't simply ignore it and planned to find the reason behind such talent. Of course, all that would wait until he destroyed the incarnation of the Soul King inside the realm and made sure all those who did him wrong paid.
I have mastered earth attunement, water synchronization, fire integration, and air assimilation. I can now train elemental resonance and officially take the first step into the primordial path.
Being able to attune with the 4 elemental laws and harnessing their essence did not mean Kane had entered the foundation stage of the primordial path. All those incredibly complicated feats were prerequisites for taking the first step into elemental harmony.
Yes, now comes the most crucial part, elemental resonance. You can harmonize with the natural elements but must push your ability to commune with the world even higher. Your body must be able to resonate with all 4 elements simultaneously. At this point, you will be able to harness natural energy, allowing your skin to gain the toughness of earth, your veins the fluidity of water, your blood the intensity of fire, and your movements the agility of wind. Once you attain elemental resonance, you will have officially taken the first step into the foundation stage of the primordial path. While there will be a long way until you reach the apex of elemental harmony, you can continue your training in the outside world and will no longer require my help.
Kane understood all that, and the determination in his eyes made it clear he was ready to take the next step. Anak did not waste time, and his eyes glowed as a massive new terrain materialized. This time, it was a gargantuan landmass set on fire with raging tornadoes and tsunamis striking from all directions. The destructive power of the elements was so immense that even an early divine ascension master would have a hard time enduring it. Still, Kane could calmly descend into the center of this cataclysmic environment and adopt a meditative position on the ground amidst the flames, raging gales, and oceanic waves. Kane could already harmonize with all 4 elements, but now he had to do it simultaneously, allowing all their essence to course through his body in harmony. It was incredibly complicated, as he must resonate with all elemental forces. However, once he did, he could harness the natural energy, achieving elemental resonance and gaining a physical might that was off the charts. Minutes became hours, and hours became days, but Kane did not move a single muscle as his attunement with the elements grew deeper and deeper. Anak's eyes were full of excitement and expectation as he focused on Kane, hoping to see another miracle, and the young man did not disappoint. By the 5th day, natural energy flowed into Kane's body, slowly permeating his flesh and blood. Yes! Anak shouted in his mind as he saw how Kane began to harness the natural energy. As long as the young man managed to revolve it across his body and flood his cells with its power, he would achieve elemental resonance. More and more natural energy filled Kane's body, improving every single physical aspect. But that was not all, as the natural energy also flooded into his sacred organs, enhancing his energy pools. On the 15th day, the natural energy had fully saturated his body. At this point, he opened his eyes as his rebirth hot and evolution Ka burst with an overwhelming power. The training in elemental harmony had not just improved his body and attunement with the elements, but also enhanced his essence wave and astral wave to the point that both energies reached the middle stage's limit and were ready to evolve to the next level. Anak noticed the change in Kane's body, and the sky-blue lightning in his eyes burst with power as the terrain flooded with extremely pure energy, granting the young man all the resources he could need to evolve his paths of power. Kane acted like a ravenous beast, absorbing all the energy that flooded the terrain, feeding his essence star and improving the metamorphosis of his cells, pushing both paths forward with all his strength. A pillar of sky blue and dark purple energy burst from Kane's body as his essence wave and astral wave grew more and more powerful, pushing forward his understanding of the cosmic forces and the strength of his already immensely powerful body. But that was not all, as the improvement of these two also made his peak apotheosis level willpower grow even more. Every aspect of Kane's existence was pushing forward. After almost 10 hours, his raging energy finally began to cool down, and his body could relax. Kane rose from the ground, and as he clenched his fists, he felt the immense strength of his arms, which was already enhanced by the shocking amount of natural energy flooding his flesh and blood. "System, scan me." Kane could not wait and immediately commanded the system to scan his body, and the always faithful Absolute Life Form system did not make him wait. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 572, Leaving the Dimension. Scanning vessel, scan of vessel completed. Name, Kane Lorifa. Race, Godslayer humankind. Path of power, astral rebirth, late wave king, essence evolution, late wave king. Lineage, Soli's lineage, maximum purity. Wave talent. Stats. Strength, 152.4, 201.4, 274.6. Agility, 89.6, 130.9, 200.5. Vitality, 189.5, 248.3, 324.6. Astral wave, 116.3, 155.2, 214.6. Essence wave, 124.3, 177.5, 239.4. Blood energy, astral, 200.2, 220.4. Blood energy, essence, 220.2, 235.2. Astral blood saturation, 80% completion. Law mastery. Law of blood, extreme law fragmentation. Law of space, low law fragmentation. Earth law, middle law fragmentation. Water law, middle law fragmentation. Fire law, middle law fragmentation. Wind law, middle law fragmentation. Note, wave virus inside the vessel enhanced wave talent by 3.1%. The effect has diminished as the vessel's foundation is too strong for the wave virus to have an impact. Note, natural energy has enhanced every aspect of the vessel's physical body as well as both astral wave and essence wave. The current value is marked between. Once natural energy is depleted, the vessel's power will return to base stats. Kane's eyes showed his immense awe and shock as he saw the information the Absolute Life Form system displayed in his mind. His wave talent had risen to a level that the AI chip module could not properly measure due to the lack of information in its database. The evolution to the middle wave king in both paths was extraordinarily intense and pure, made clear by the immense evolution of his stats, and even more impressive was the height at which they were enhanced due to the power of natural energy now running through his body. Of course, there was a finite amount of natural energy, and once it was depleted, Kane would again need to resonate with the elements and flood his body with it if he wanted the improvements. Only at the last level of elemental harmonization would he be able to overcome this weakness. Nevertheless, the effect will last long enough for the subsequent battles, improving both his body and the power of his spells. His astral blood saturation had improved a whopping 13%, allowing him to reach 80% before even taking a step into the apotheosis realm, and his attunement with the elemental forces allowed him to gain an understanding of the elemental laws to the point he now reached the middle law fragmentation in all of them. His blood energy was the only thing that did not experience an incredible improvement. Still, Cain expected that much, as the blood chamber and blood flames could not keep up with the overwhelming improvements of his body and energy pools. Unfortunately, they were not enhanced by natural energy either. They are still useful, but I must change my battle style soon. As for the fact the system still classified me as human, that was not wrong either, since even after completing the first level of the primordial path, it would be far from becoming a true primordial. Cain allowed his mind to wander briefly, but immediately regained focus. He had grown immensely powerful, but remembered very well that people depended on him and were running out of time.
Lord Anarch, what is the state of my comrades in the astral blood chamber?
Anarch's eyes showed a favorable light as he heard Cain's words and saw that the young man had not forgotten about his friends, and now that he had obtained the power to help them, he was ready to march.
They are deep inside the astral bloodline chamber, all still alive, but their condition is worsening rapidly. The radiation has accumulated to dangerous levels in their flesh and blood, and it would not be long before their bodies start to shut down. Unfortunately, they could not leave as all your enemies besieged the astral bloodline chamber.
Cain frowned as he heard those words. His current power was more than enough to kill Robert or any other members of the Umbra clan and Kraken clan, but he would not be facing them one by one, and it was clear that the warriors of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan were not in a condition to help him. No matter how strong he was, fighting 20 apotheosis masters would not be easy, especially if the Soul King led them. However, the danger did nothing to erase Cain's determination, and he was ready to face the Soul King for the second time.
Lord Anarch, I am ready to leave, but before I do, I wonder if you could share your knowledge about the astral sea and its wonders.
Cain did not know when he would see Anarch again and wanted to peek into this one's mind about the wonders and mysteries of the astral sea. He knew the primordial had amnesia, but some memories might still exist.
I am sorry, boy, but my memory is flawed, to say the least. The primordial path is clear to me since they are racial memories embedded in my soul, but other than that, everything is foggy. I fear anything I share with you will only confuse you and might be wrong.
Anarch wanted to help Cain, but there was no point in sharing flawed memories that could mislead the young man. Cain understood the reasoning of the primordial and did not press the subject.
I see, then allow me to express my thanks for this immense lucky chance. I hope that the next time I see you, Lord Anarch, I will have the power to help you achieve rebirth. I wish you good luck, boy, and I hope you make our race proud. I will use my power to take you out of this dimension, and after that I will return to my slumber, as using my power severely depleted me. I am sure you will crush all your enemies.
Cain clasped his hands and performed a deep bow toward Anarch. There was no need for more words, as the primordial knew the young man would repay his help. The next second, the sky-blue lightning in the gargantuan eyes covered Cain, and he vanished from the dimension. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 573, 21 Revolution Refinement. Cain appeared back at the edge of the Mind Cosmos chamber. As he glanced at the Mind Destroyer cyclone, he noticed how the intensity of it weakened significantly, probably meaning that Anarch had indeed gone into hibernation. He glanced at the cyclone briefly before turning to the route. It was time to march into the Grey Road, which now Cain knew was actually Anarch's spine, and head into the astral bloodline chamber, where he would face the Soul King. Although time was of the essence, Cain did not immediately march, and a profound light appeared in his eyes as he communicated with the system. How much Destiny Force have I accumulated? Destiny Force, 54.3 M. The number was beyond amazing, but Cain only smiled as the lucky chances he had attained in his time on the Hyperion continent had been mind-blowing. Such a massive number allowed Cain to do something he would have never considered before. System, create a 21 revolution flame. A 21 Revolution Flame costs 1M Destiny Foss. Is the vessel sure? Do it. Creating a 21 Revolution Flame. As soon as the system received the confirmation from Cain, the enhancement module came into play. The module consumed his Destiny Foss, and soon a sphere appeared before him. His eyes displayed a sense of wonder as he saw the majestic flame inside, but there was no time to lose. A 21 Revolution Flame will not directly improve my battle power, but will enhance my talent, improving my astral blood saturation and law mastery, allowing me to display greater abilities. It will take some time, but it should be completed by the time I reach the astral bloodline chamber. With determination, Cain once again communicated with the Absolute Life Form system. System, use the Body Enhancer Catalyst tool to perform a flawless 21 Revolution Refinement. A 21 Revolution Refinement costs 3M Destiny Foss. Is the vessel sure? Yes. As soon as Cain uttered those words, the sphere before him shattered into pieces, and the 21 Revolution Flame began to flood his body, drawing the world's energy into his flesh and blood. The process would normally be incredibly complicated, but thanks to the power of the Absolute Life Form system, Cain did not need to worry. The process was painful, but he could still retain enough focus to fly, and like a comet, he flashed into the path back to the Grey Road. Inside the astral bloodline chambers, close to the astral bloodline car, stood the Zanguinis and Solis clans members. All of them honed their bloodline membrane, but their faces were pale, and blood continuously leaked from the orifices on their faces. Their skin had started to peel off as they suffered from debilitating and painful radiation poisoning. Zamiel and Law were enduring the radiation coming from the astral bloodline car better than all the others. However, they were still very sick already and needed to exit the chambers, or else their internal organs would begin to shut down. Unfortunately, that was not a choice. The duo's eyes were full of hatred and gloom as they saw the Soul King and the warriors of the Umbra clan and Kraken clan waiting for them at the chamber entrance. Although the radiation from the astral bloodline car was killing them, it was also the only thing stopping the Soul King and the others from attacking them. In the beginning, all the warriors of the Zanguinis clan and Solis clan were hopeful that Cain would be able to get help, but once they saw the Soul King come back, a sense of despair assaulted them. The Deus Behemoth still harbored some small hope that Cain could have survived, but as time passed and their condition worsened, that feeling was fading away. By now, they were all at death's door, and the idea that someone would come to help them had all but faded. Zamiel couldn't help but sigh as he watched the warriors from the Solis clan, and a sense of disappointment appeared in his eyes as he felt he failed them. It was clear by now they would all perish in this place, and their glorious destiny was over. However, even in such a grim and helpless situation, Zamiel's eyes were able to burst with willpower as he turned toward Law. The duo looked at each other briefly and softly nodded as they stood up.
Warriors of the Solis clan and Zanguinis clan, hear my words.
Everybody focused on Zamiel, and a solemn and imposing expression appeared on his pale face.
I will not lie to you, as the path forward will only lead us to death. However, we are soldiers, Deus Behemoths, and we will not die without fighting.
It was not a long speech, nor did it carry fancy words, but it was perfect for members of the Deus Behemoth race, whose nature was straightforward and without pretense. All the Solis clan and Zanguinis clan members stood up, and the fatigue and weakness seemed to fade from their faces as their willpower burst, showing the determination to give it all in the incoming attack. The Soul King saw how the Solis clan and Zanguinis clan warriors stood up and ready to perform one last attack, but his face remained serene. He showed no concern for a group of dying people trying to shine one last time before perishing. With a single glance from the Soul King, Rubba, and Talon moved forward, and the rest of the warriors of the Kraken clan and Umbra clan also made their energy burst. No matter how weak of a threat the enemy was, a cornered animal could bite, and if they were reckless, some might die.
An ant crashing against a wall, how futile.
The Soul King uttered those words of contempt toward the members of the Solis clan and Zanguinis clan, who were ready to march into the final battle when his eyes widened. He immediately turned back, and a sense of utter disbelief appeared on his face as he saw a figure emerging from the earth. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 574, Killing the Umbra Clan. The newcomer did not break the ground, and it was as if he was part of the earth, flawlessly managing to rise from it without any sense of disturbance. His movement was so smooth and silent that even as he stood in the middle of the warriors of the Umbra clan, none of them were able to perceive him.
Impossible.
Full of disbelief and shock, that word emerged from the Soul King's mouth as his mind could not process what was happening. Cain had just emerged from the ground, and he looked at him with a smile, his entire body set ablaze with dark golden flames as he triggered radiance of strength right before all his energy charged into the blade in his hand.
Dimensional rend.
It was only as they heard those words that the members of the Umbra clan perceived the young man who stood in the middle of their battle formation, but it made no difference as none of them were able to react to the next attack. Dimensional rend would normally create a small and thin tear in space from which an overwhelming amount of blood energy would emerge. Yet, Cain was able to perform a full rotation with Slaughter, severing the space in the form of a halo as thick as his arm. The power of natural energy not only enhanced Cain's physical might, but also allowed his spells to evolve into a stronger version of themselves due to the immense power of the elements now flooding into his astral wave and essence wave. Two of the warriors of the Umbra clan were too close to Cain, so the rending of space also cut their bodies in half as if their flesh and bones were made of paper, and what came next was an explosion whose power could threaten the life of Middle Divine Ascension Masters. A sense of utter shock and awe filled the hearts of the warriors from both sides as none of them could believe what they had just seen. Cain had returned, and not only was he able to hide from the members of the Umbra clan, known for their assassination skills, but he unleashed a strike whose power was simply off the charts. Cain showed a cold smile as he saw that his dimensional rend cut in half two members of the Umbra clan, and the blast killed 3 more before sending the rest flying away with bloody wounds all over their bodies. The power of dimensional rend improved exponentially thanks to the natural energy. However, the energy output of his attack was simply too high for the natural holy weapon, leaving deep cracks in the blade. The damage to the weapon made sense. After all, Slaughter was a holy weapon, and its power limit was the Apotheosis realm, so something at the Middle Divine Ascension realm was simply too much for the blade to endure. If Cain were to continue using it, the blade would shatter to pieces before the battle ended. Unfortunately for Cain, he did not have time to worry about the blade as a figure flashed toward him, waving a massive hammer carrying an abominable oceanic pressure. While everybody else, including Talon, was too shocked by Cain's sudden appearance and overwhelming power, the Soul King was a seasoned monster with thousands of years of experience, allowing him to react immediately and order Robert to attack. Cain saw the massive hammer coming at him. Before he would have been forced to push his body to the limit to dodge the blow, relying on the flow, but things were different now. He smiled as Slaughter returned to his heart, and his right fist burst with bright golden fire. The moment that golden flame appeared, the temperature of the place grew scorchingly hot, and the most shocked of all were the members of the Solis clan. All of them knew the technique Cain was displaying as it was Solar Flare Fist, which allowed you to concentrate immense amounts of sunlight energy in your punches to increase their power. However, the energy in Cain's fists could not be described as sunlight. It was not the quantity, but the quality of this one that had evolved to a whole new level.
Sun Force Fist.
Cain shouted the name of the enhanced skill as he took Robert's hammer head-on. One was a giant nearly 3 meters tall with a massive hammer, and the other was a young man just 2 meters tall with his bare fists. A burst of bright golden flames and oceanic waves blasted in all directions as the fist and hammer clashed head-on. Robert had been enhanced at the cost of his life force, allowing his physical might and energy pool to reach that of an early Divine Ascension Master, and he had his hammer that could push his power to an even higher level. On the other hand, Cain could no longer rely on his holy weapon as he had grown too powerful for this one and could only use his fists. Yet there was a smile on his face as he pushed the enhanced member of the Kraken clan back. Robit's eyes were empty as his mind was totally under the control of the Soul King, but he clenched his teeth and tightened the grip around his hammer as he used every ounce of his strength not to be sent flying away by Kane's fists. Despite all the enhancements, Robit could not face Kane, who was now potentiated by the natural energy. However, he was not alone, and immediately, two members of the Kraken clan flashed toward Kane from the left and right, trying to take advantage of his stalemate. Kane's smile did not fade as he saw the other two warriors of the Kraken clan attack. He focused on the one on the left coming at him with two small and sharp daggers, and his eyes began to glow with a burning golden energy.
Sun Eyes.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 575, Return of the Scarlet King.
Sun Eyes.
At that moment, two beams of concentrated solar force emerged from Kane's eyes, blasting into the chest of the member of the Kraken clan with the daggers, thrusting him into one of the walls with a burning hole in his chest. Zamuel and the members of the Solis clan were once again shocked by the skill Kane just used. Its actual name was Solar Gaze, allowing you to discharge sunlight energy from your eyes. Since the eyes were so delicate, the blast's power was not very strong and only worked as a distraction. However, Kane transformed Solar Gaze into Sun Eyes, an ability whose power could destroy the chest of a peak apotheosis master. Kane felt his eyes burning, but did not lose focus. Using his body talk, he managed to gain enough power to overcome the hammer and send Robit flying away. He had just done that when the member of the Kraken clan coming from the right hacked with her massive bastard sword. The flow allowed Kane to perceive the movements of the bastard sword, but that did not mean it would be easy to dodge it, as it was less than 5 centimeters away from his face. Normally, it would have been impossible to dodge the attack from such a short distance, but natural energy evolved every aspect of his existence. Kane's muscles and bones seemed to gain the fluidity of water, and his movements the dexterity of wind. All that, plus the power of the law of space, permitted him to dodge the bastard sword and move forward, allowing him to stand right in front of the members of the Kraken clan. His right hand opened, and his palm took the form of a blade as the power of the law of space and law of blood channeled into it. A normal body could not endure such power, and even an astral cultivator would have faced backlash, but right now, his construction was more than powerful enough to allow him to use spells with his flesh and blood.
Quantum Laceration.
That was the last thing the member of the Kraken clan heard as Kane's hand bent space and split his body in half, killing her instantly.
Pull back, adopt defensive formation, now.
Kane had just killed the second member of the Kraken clan when the Soul King's voice echoed. The Dark King was extremely wise, and instead of continuing to send pawns to the slaughterhouse, he gathered all the Umbra clan and Kraken clan warriors that could still fight. When he saw how the enemies grouped, a sharp light appeared in Kane's eyes, and he could not help but curse at the cautiousness and wisdom of the Dark King. Had they continued charging toward him in such a disorderly manner, he would have killed many more without effort. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end, and from now on, Kane will have to face them in battle formation. The battle would be incredibly hard even with his power, but Kane's eyes burst with red light as he was eager to unleash his immense power and make the Soul King and all the others pay for chasing him like a dog and forcing him into a dead end. One side had Kane, a young man nearly 20 years old, while the other had more than 12 apotheosis masters, yet the members of the Umbra clan could not hide their fear. In their eyes, what they were facing was not a young man, but an immortal monster that returned from death to kill them all. The Soul King did not have the luxury of allowing his shock to overcome his rational mind, and while he did not understand how Kane managed to come back with so much power, none of that mattered now. Half of the members of the Umbra clan were gone after Kane's initial attack, and the rest were injured. 8 members of the Kraken clan were still alive, including the Soul King, but the battle vessel was still badly wounded, and Robit had sustained several injuries due to the recent clash. Damn it, how can an insignificant brat push me to such an extreme? The Soul King shouted in his mind as he needed to find a way to overcome this ordeal, and kill the young man once and for all.
I can see your killing intent, but are you sure of your path? The members of the Kraken clan are under my sole control and are innocent. Once you leave the dimension, your crimes will spread across the Deus Behemoth Empire, and you will be a pariah.
When Zamiel and Law heard the words of the Soul King, a sense of disgust and loathing immediately appeared in their hearts as they could not believe the man's shamelessness. The Soul King was using the members of the Kraken clan against their will, yet he wanted to appeal to Kane's sense of morality. The feeling of disgust was shared by all the members of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan, but there was also a sense of worry as they feared that Kane would feel conflicted in facing the members of the Kraken clan, and that could lead to an opening the Soul King would use. However, all the worries in Zamiel, Law, and the rest of the Solis clan and Zangini's clan members were unwarranted.
Are you so idiotic as to think something like that would affect my mind? Is someone like you really a dark king of the organization? I guess anyone can use that moniker now, including those too stupid to understand the nature of a true king.
The battle thrill in Kane's face vanished and was replaced by a sense of disdain as he waved his hand across his face, and the next second, a red mask appeared.
A king severs all obstacles in his path and shows mercy to no one. I don't care about their conditions, just as I don't care about the tragic past of all the people that I have killed before. They are an enemy and will die, and you will share the same fate once I return to Gaia.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Pixie FM grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates.